Okay, we are live.
Thank you, Mrs. DeGraw. We want to welcome everyone this morning to our special board meeting and want to also excuse Mrs. Rigby. She will not be able to be here this morning. But we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order, and the floor will be open for a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion that we approve the agenda for this morning's meeting.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Our motion passes. Thank you. Move right into the medical terminology curriculum parent permission waiver.
So, Madam Chair, as we talked in a previous meeting that our medical terminology curriculum does require a textbook. This is a college level textbook, and so we discussed the best way of having a textbook that does have some more mature content in it because of the topic that they're going to be studying. So this is the agreement that we put out that I wanted to have the board look at as we prepare to go with this curriculum, because this is a curriculum that any of our curriculum that we have at the school, parents can come and view. And so this is what we put in here. West Jefferson High School offers many career and technical education opportunities for our students, which is one thing that we're really proud of at West Jefferson. And one of our EMT classes is a dual credit medical terminology class. Students who complete this course will receive 2 college credits and 1 high school credit. The textbook for this college level medical terminology class contains specific and detailed visual representations of the human body and anatomy, both illustrations and photos. And that's one that the board did look at earlier. And, you know, Madam Chair, you are on the EMT and have gone through those courses. We felt that as at least recommendation from superintendent and the board looked at that, feeling that this would be appropriate for that content, especially because it's a dual credit college course. And so parents and students that are wanting their kids to be in that should recognize that this is something that they would see at college. It's our intention to inform students and parents of that the content they will be studying this course will contain information and images of the human body that are intended to prepare students for a career in the medical field of study. To ensure that parents and students are aware of the content that will be studied during the course, we are requiring that this agreement form be signed by a parent, guardian, and the student. Parents may view the textbook, and there it is, Medical Terminology, a Living Language, 4th edition, by contacting the teacher, Dina Stedman. And so here's the agreement. I'm aware that the medical terminology class will have a college level textbook that contains specific and detailed representations of the human body and anatomy. My child and I have discussed this matter. I give permission for my student to take part in the medical terminology class and to use the college level textbook that accompanies the course. I think this covers everything where the communication is out, they'll do that. So what are any questions for me? And this would be something that I would propose to the board just to be voted on and accepted, that we have this agreement accompany this course.
That's good. I'm sure with that. I mean, it is graphic, so.
But it's not in a way that it's education.
Right,
That's
it's
like
professional.
when you're going into the medical field, there are going to be injuries and things that
This is
that
taken
pertain.
in sophomore year.
It could be junior or sophomore. Well, I did visit with Mr. Guimar. He mentioned that as he visits with kids that take this class, that he makes sure that they are mature enough to take that type of a workload, but it's also part of the parents. He's not the one making the decision to say, no, you're not mature enough to take it, but he does. It's not also just the things, the visual that they'll see, that they need to be mature enough to be able to see images of the human body, but it's also the sheer number of vocabulary words.
Mhm.
You know, there's.
So I thought that if you took this course
Mhm.
of study, that you started in freshman year with medical fields, and then in sophomore year you took this, but that's not the case.
By sophomore, you can start this and then be on the EMT or junior. You take the EMT classes the junior year
Junior
and be
and
ready.
senior.
Yeah, junior and senior year.
Okay.
So the students who have the desire to get to the point where they can shadow an EMT run or shadow the EMT drivers would have to finish all of these courses before their senior year to do that.
Okay.
But there are some that may not want to have that shadow experience, and they can still take some of these courses, is what my understanding is.
Is there any more discussion or any questions for Mr. Williams?
Oh, one more. Do you have, so when you go into this, you don't have to have the intent to get an EMT.
No,
You can just take the class just because you want to take
you
it.
could. You could take it to
So it's
explore.
not limited to those that are
No.
going on that path. Okay.
Well, I think this is good to have this information just in general.
Yeah.
You know, in
could be,
case
yeah.
you're driving down the highway and see an accident, you know what to do.
Yeah, this is an elective course. And so
Okay.
it's not anything that we're requiring everybody to take.
Not requiring everybody to take, but those that do go on that path, they don't have to complete it.
If they're on the path, if they're on the pathway for EMT, this
They
is a
would.
required course,
Okay.
but only if they choose that pathway.
Okay.
And that's the whole, I guess, the beauty of having dual credit options is that is credit for college, and it's difficult. Well, I don't think we can change the curriculum to grant a student college credit if we're not following what the college
Exactly.
wants us to do. And that's where it gets a little bit like,
Okay.
we will have potentially more mature content because it is a college level.
All right, will the floor be open for a motion to approve the parent permission waiver?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the medical terminology course waiver.
And Madam Chair, I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Move on to our information and discussion items. First, the Policy 5000 series, Mr. Williams.
All right, so this will be a bulk of really the special / work meeting that we have today. And just a reminder, in a work meeting, the process does change. Those that are in the audience, if the chair does address them, they can participate in a work meeting, but it's again, all communication in a organized board meeting has to come through the chair on that. So Policy 5000 series, I'm still sharing my screen, correct?
Yes, you are.
So we'll start off with the table of contents. We're going to go through this and this is one that we've handed out. And Mrs. DeGraff, you wouldn't mind going and getting another copy for the
Yes.
board members there. As we've discussed this the last couple months, and again, it's quite a task to be able to go through all the policy. I'm gonna probably shut this camera off there. I'll be looking over at the board. People don't need to see my face right now. With the policy process of redoing it, I know we've said this, but just for the sake of those that are tuning in, might be the first time that they're listening in. So we've contracted with the Idaho School Boards Association to help us review policy. And so the Idaho School Boards Association, when we looked at our old policy, some of them were pretty outdated and put since the early 80s when the district started. And so the Idaho School Board Association, they get us a list of sample policies that could be used. That doesn't mean that they have to be used, with the exception of those that are highlighted in yellow. Those are the ones that are required by law. And so there are some districts that I've seen and gone and looked at the websites, and they only have those areas. Now, somebody might ask, well, what about the other things that have to go on? Because there's a lot of other things. Those are seen as procedures, administrative procedures, that they still have something in place at the school level, but it doesn't have to go through the formality of a school board to look at every single detail. And it's kind of a philosophical view of, do we want the school board? In our training, they tell us school board should be at the 30,000 foot mark. They say, we want this to happen, and then they have their administrators go take care of it. And, that's kind of the give and take. You have others that might have extensive policy all the way throughout with what they do. Generally speaking, if I'm going to say, those are usually districts that have 2 or 3 assistant superintendents. They're really big districts. that have just a large group. So sometimes it's trying to find that balance between we're a small enough school. We need to be able to have the flexibility, I think, from a superintendent standpoint, to be able to move and adjust, but also not be just bogged down with policy all the time. So that's kind of the philosophy behind where we're looking at least my recommendation as superintendent. So as we go through the table of contents today, would like to choose really which ones to focus in on that would put to go to the formal board process. Since this is a work meeting, nothing here is final, but we can make decisions to put into a first and second reading that would go on to the next one. So that way we still can work through the examples and different things that we have here. Any thoughts or questions on that philosophy or what I just shared?
I still have a hard time trying to, in my mind, say this one is policy and this one isn't, when they seem equally important. So I would have to be guided through that.
Yeah, on the Nedra's point, I'm looking at 5110, criminal history background checks, that's not in yellow. That surprises me.
It's required by law. We do it anyway.
It's required by law. It's part of our hiring procedure.
Mhm. But it should be in yellow because it's required, right?
So just because it's required doesn't mean it has to be part of policy. It just means that
See,
as a
that's what
human
makes it so
resource
hard.
department,
Mhm.
we have to make sure it happens.
Mhm.
And so that's part of our hiring process. They have to get their fingerprints done, even if they're just a volunteer, we have to go through that.
Mhm.
So we still do that.
Mhm.
It's just one of those things where when you pull up a policy and you outline it, this is where the philosophical part is. Policy can protect you, but if you're not following every single thing on a policy,
Then you get into trouble.
then you can get into trouble.
Mhm.
Whereas by law, we still have, like everybody we hire, that's what we do.
Mhm.
So just because it's not there doesn't mean we're like, oh, great, we're gonna
So
let the criminals.
yellow
It's
is
not
state,
working for us.
yellow is state requirement,
Yep,
right?
so yellow,
Correct.
And
yellow
I can't
has to be
believe
there.
5110 isn't in yellow, but that's just
We can
my
put it there.
opinion. What,
We can put it there. We can put whatever we
Well, I
want
think if
there.
it's in law, then.
So
We
that
can do
allows
that.
us to,
have a little bit of,
well, not to have a little bit of leeway, but it
Leeway.
allows the state to adjust those laws without us then having to come back through and say, oh, well, the law changed, now we have to change the policy. We just know that part of our hiring process, we follow this law. If the law adjusts, then we adjust with that law.
Mhm. Okay, thanks for your statement.
so the blue ones that we had, I went through a couple different districts in the region and just kind of compared this series, since it's a rewrite, to see what are other districts putting in there. And so the blue ones are ones that are also not required by state law. So like I said, I've seen some districts that just have the bare minimum than others. And so the blue ones were ones that other districts had put in because they felt like it was important. But again, that's why it's wide open. We can go right down the list. I think we just do that and just to go through, since it is a work meeting and it will take a little bit of time. Just have that
Okay,
as part of the process.
Tell me then the difference between one of these having forms, anything that has an F with it.
Yeah.
Some of them you're keeping in and some of them you're not. So as we go through, you'll notice that some are in and some are not. And I just,
Process.
I'm not sure
That's part
why
of
you
that.
wouldn't
It's
want to
just
keep
kind
the
of so it
form right
includes
with
that.
the
Yeah, it's just
policy so that you'd have it right there. See, when you're
That's- I'd say
separating
that's a
things,
pretty
you
important
have
thing.
them, one in
You don't wanna
the,
hire, you know,
one in
trouble
the
employee.
Procedure.
procedures manual, or forms in the procedures manual, and then the policy in the policy manual. So you've got to go,
We'd probably want to put forms in if we have it in here that requires a form,
yeah.
then
Well, you see, you've got 5,100, 3 forms there that are not part of policy.
so those are just a form that we would send to the other district.
Right, but it's going to be found in the procedures manual. All I'm saying is.
I'm just curious why the actual form that we send to another district would need to be in the policy manual.
I just thought we'd want to keep everything together, but that's not our purpose then.
I don't think so. I think you have.
So you read the policy and you say form found in procedures manual, so you know.
So we would remove that
Right,
form
you've got-
reference, because sometimes when we get those records, the other district is sending us their form instead of using our personal form.
Yeah, but I guess I just was trying to be everything together instead of policy here, forms over here.
I can see
procedures
that.
here.
I can see that point. But what happens if you have a policy manual that's 4 inches thick and you have to go and just follow it all the way through? It creates a real bureaucratic, like, we've got to do this and this and this. And if we send the wrong form, if we need to change that form, we can change a procedure without having to go back through. Like, well, you have the 2 readings, the second reading, the voting on it. Because if you do that and we miss it, then people
Well,
are
now
coming.
that makes sense.
And that's the whole purpose behind it. The things that, like a form, it's not gonna matter, but if we change the date or change something on that,
Yeah, okay.
somebody
now
will come
you're-
back and say, you're not following policy.
All right, now you're making sense. Okay,
And so those are the types of things that we want, the things that we have to follow in policy. Those are in
Okay.
stone. Those are the things that have to be followed
all right.
all the
so-
time, because it comes through this board
Yeah.
as the governing agent of the district.
Okay.
But I do think, if we're speaking philosophically, why are these even offered? Why do they go so far? What comparison in those that have, my background is in special education as a special education teacher. And anybody who's ever been to a meeting with an individual education program or an IEP, they have forms after forms after forms. And it feels like you're buying a house or going into a legal thing, when really we're just trying to say, what can we do to help the kid? That's really what it's all about. And I think, in my mind, I go, the reason why that is that way is because was built upon the court system. It was like the whole thing with that process was, these are things that you have to do. So it's almost like the schools are saying, we're gonna do all these things so we don't get sued. So really, if we're following the things in the yellow, we're following the things that we have to.
Okay,
The other things would be the procedures. The procedures will be connected to state law, which helps us also be protected. But also, when you have a state law, it just eliminates that one thing, like I said,
okay.
where it just eliminates that one more governing body to
I
say,
never thought
you
about
got to
that.
change it this way.
Okay,
And on one hand, it's kind of goes back to trust. Like, we have to trust people that they're going to do the right thing or try to do the right thing. And just having an extra policy doesn't make people change. It just creates it.
I understand that now. I see it. So are we gonna go into the policy and look at them, and if we had questions? on
I
any
think
of
what we
them?
want to do today, at least my suggestion, but it's your work meeting. We can go into, I think we go down first and just say, okay, we know that,
We determine which are which then,
like, these are here.
and not go inside the policy.
And unless there's something that really jumped out, that like in that
So-
policy that you want, like
There
we
were
want to
things I
keep it or
didn't
change it.
understand.
Well, and so what we'll do is, as we decide which policies we want, then I'll do what I've done with the previous policies, where I go through and simplify the language, and
Yep.
then after I've simplified it, if there's still something that you don't like, we can correct that.
Well, I've got a lot of stuff
Great.
in here.
Yeah, we'll use yours as
That's for sure. The guidance.
the guidance. Midrow will guide us
Well, I didn't
home on
want to read
one.
this for nothing.
No, it's not for
No.
nothing.
Okay,
So
all right then.
So it looks like the first 3 those are gonna be there for sure.
Okay.
The next 3 forms, as per our conversation, I'd say we leave out.
Right.
Certificated personnel employment and informal reviews. Those were others. Any thoughts on in or out?
You want to close up?
I do. So 5105. 5105 is not on this.
It's gonna be in the edited folder because I think I was working on that last
Alright.
night. No, it's not. Okay, so this one, the 5105 was one that another district had that ISBA did not send us.
Oh,
Because 5107 is there.
It's talking about their categories of this-
that 5105 that you have there.
Mhm.
Cat 1, Cat 2, is it in the strike through thing?
That's the one, cat 1, cat 2. Cat 3.
Yeah, that was one I was looking at last night.
That seems pretty important to me.
Yeah, well, I just think it defines the. I say we can keep it in there.
There we go.
Oh, here it is. Thank you.
So I am simplifying it.
So it has different categories when they get hired. What that means, I would agree that this would be one that would. There. Yep, this looks pretty straightforward.
And that helps guide us as we're deciding what contracts to issue new teachers.
Well, I put a yes on it. I
Okay.
thought, I don't know what the rest
I
of
think
you
it's
think.
pretty,
It's-
I think if people want yes, let's leave them in there. Let's not try to like talk people out of the stuff. Let's put as much in as we want to today, and then we can decide. 'Cause there's gonna be quite a few that aren't, so that's a yes. Informal review,
So to
Well,
me, that
this-
one is a procedure,
this one right here, or the review.
the review, shouldn't it? Do you
So
have
the
that?
informal review is similar, is connected to the 5105. 5105 talks about, you know, a cat 1 can be released without even getting an informal review. A cat 2 may, and so this is going to guide your informal review that you would conduct with an employee that's requesting it.
This has the board in
So
it
this is
too.
the board of how the board is going to conduct an informal review. And so it wouldn't be inappropriate for you guys to have this in policy. If you could or couldn't, it's up to you guys.
Where, yeah, this is something where they're meeting with the board.
We should probably keep that in, shall we?
I think it would be helpful. I don't see it happening a lot, but
But we would definitely simplify the language.
this
and the
is, this
procedure.
is just a due
It's to meet with
process.
us why they disagree with the decision we made.
Yeah,
So it's not necessarily a decision you've made, but a decision that the superintendent would bring to you guys and say, this is our recommendation. So you did vote on it and approve it, but it was based on the information you were given from the superintendent.
this will give the teacher a chance to come before the board on an informal review process.
In your simplifying of it, though, if we're gonna have it in policy, then we have to follow it step by
Correct.
step by step. So-
Correct, and so it will allow for you guys, it will outline the major details, but allow you guys to have the freedom to use your best judgment.
Yeah, this would be one that it starts having the limits of exact dates, but I believe those are also in code as I've
Okay,
visited with legal counsel on my trainings and things with them. Those things do have timelines,
sure.
and so,
Is that typical on that 5 days?
It is,
yeah,
That is typical, 5 days?
and as part of informing them that they will not be rehired, that would be included in their information, that if you wish to have an informal review, you need to reply within 5 days. We would appraise them of their legal rights. I'm taking on the direct deposit, so. Okay, yep, I'll get that to sign.
So
We're okay with that one
I
then?
think, I think we're okay with rolling forward with that one still. So moving on to criminal history background checks.
We talked about that one.
Proceed.
Talked
Procedures.
about that one, that's in the hiring process.
So that right in the hiring process and states the law of bias.
Yeah. So
Next
I
one,
didn't understand that. It's in the hiring process already.
so equal employment opportunities out and staying in for sure. Reporting new employees, 5125. Thoughts on 5125?
How necessary is that, do you think?
Well, let's
Reporting
look
new
and see what it
employees?
says.
So 51. I'm not seeing it on that list again.
It'll be in procedure. So if you go back to the section 5,000 draft,
Oh, okay, I got
it's
you
in
now.
procedure because we didn't put it in our list of policy.
With you now. So 51,
25.
55.
Let's see what it is.
I think has established an automated. Oh, we do this anyway. This is just part of what the State Department's going to contact us on everybody that we hire.
We're required to have them fill out a W-4 for
Mhm.
tax purposes.
So then they,
Yeah. I think we can leave that right in procedure. So.
Have two windows open.
two windows open.
If you come back to the procedures window, Mr. Williams,
Yeah,
and click to the section 5,000 draft.
right there.
Mhm.
Okay.
Then you can open procedure and policy in separate windows. Like do a two finger click.
Open this separate window. Everybody at home's gonna be like, hey, I'm learning with him on this.
It's not letting you do that.
No, it's not. Okay, let's keep moving where I have the table of contents. Administrative leaves, that's by law, that will stay in. Employee rights, responsibilities, and conduct, applicability of personnel policies. Let's get back in.
In procedure.
Let's move that down.
Can you just stop sharing?
Yep,
Your stop sharing. There you
got
go.
it.
Then you can pull it up that way.
Yep, for sure. Procedure there. Got it. Back to that. I'm glad Blythe gave me a Coca-Cola this early.
Yes, first.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't go on the water slide yesterday.
That fun.
I didn't go on it. The teachers that did are so tired. All
Yeah.
right, what number are we on?
We
50.
are
200.
Yeah,
The
5,200.
applicability of
Okay,
personnel.
so go to 5,200. Look at that one. This is already covered in our master agreement with the teachers. So let's talk about collective bargaining with the board.
Yes.
So I think that can stay.
So it has the classified employees. At the last paragraph.
Talks about the district policy manual.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary.
No, that's part of Idaho law. Can get that out. Job descriptions, we have those already at the district,
We have a job descriptions manual.
so that doesn't need to be. Because if we went through policy, then all of the job descriptions would have to come back through the board.
And so if we tried to adjust somebody's job description because we needed help with something,
Mhm.
Yep, so that's workday. That one stays in. Assignments, reassignments, and transfers. This is something I think that,
So on that workday,
Oh.
on 5210,
yes,
it says the workday is exclusive of lunch. Is that how ours is set up?
5210.
yes.
Yes, so the workday for teachers,
Yeah,
they have a 30-minute non supervised lunch. And so,
it says there it's considered a 7.83 hour per day. And you add 30 minutes to that, that's,
No, that's within that time period. So now,
it's exclusive of lunch.
so our master agreement states that they have an 8-hour workday, which includes a 30-minute lunch.
Okay, that's different than
Within
what
that.
this says.
So what we would do is make sure that our policy is in agreement with our master agreement.
So right
So
now.
that's
Yeah.
probably gonna have to be changed. a
so,
little bit.
we'll have to, so this policy has to be there, but we will come in and plug in the things that
Right, and make sure those are
Make
fixed.
sure
they're
that-
fixed. Yep,
Okay.
But this part is the classified.
yeah,
And the classified is, I'm a classified employee and I work 8 hours a day, but I'm here for 8.5 because I have a 30-minute lunch in the middle of that.
Okay, but that's not what this time up here indicates. so
Right,
that
and
has
so
to be-
we'll have to fix those times.
Okay.
So does classifieds, they get the half-hour lunch break also then, or?
yes.
They do, but it's independent of their work hours, where
Yeah.
certified it's included
Oh,
in their work
okay.
hours.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, back to the table of contents.
5220.
5220 assignments, reassignments, transfers.
Yeah, can you pull that up?
Being on the procedures, or did we keep the blues?
And the blues are in policy.
20. This is one that all staff shall be subject to assignment, reassignment, transfer positions by the board, superintendent, supervisors. I know it's not, this is one where sometimes you think, well, this could just be procedure. Sometimes it's good to have where we're moving potential personnel. It's nice for them to say, no, it's in the board manual. So if I need to move a teacher from one grade level to another grade level or vice versa, we know that that's this isn't right in their contracts that they're not hired to be that teacher in that spot forever. They have a job from West Jefferson and they just put wherever we need to have them put. This is one of those where we look at that between procedures that we might want a little bit more, just weight to it, I guess you could say, that just says, you know what, it has more people looking at it. Because if there were going to be potential conflicts between employees and administration, they would want to come to the board anyway on a just to have a hearing or some type of be heard out on it. So this is one that we'll go through. Keep that one in. To accommodating individuals with disabilities, we already have that as part of law.
Yeah, that's part of the ADA,
That
isn't it?
It is. It's already there. Health examinations, again, this is just one that somebody else, other districts had had. You pull that up and see what the 5235.
Yeah, and these are things that you're gonna fix, like
Yes,
on
yeah, like,
paragraph 2, it just ends without.
Right,
yeah,
right.
again, these were, some of these that we received from ISBA were just their sample, where they're at, where they start. So we'll
Okay.
come back in, look at all of them, put the details in.
So this doesn't look like it needs to be policy, does it?
You don't think so on that? Any other thoughts?
Some of this information is included, like, this is part of HIPAA laws and stuff.
The requested examinations will be at the cost of the district.
If we request somebody to have any, then it would be.
Can the district request an employee to have a mental evaluation?
That's what this is talking about right here.
That's it. This gives us the
We
the
would,
ability to request that if we need to.
you would, but we would have to pay for it.
Okay, we have to pay for fingerprinting anyway also.
Fingerprint's $28. The
Yeah.
background check's $28. A mental health assessment
It's
is
probably
Couple
hundreds of
that-
dollars.
Probably
An
depending
hour.
on what kind of assessment you get.
Mhm.
This seems like this would be a dire circumstance. Not
Yeah.
happening very often, I wouldn't imagine, whatever.
No, I don't think it would, and we would have to be really careful if we included this one and go through legal to clarify the language in this. Because if we don't have good language in here, we could get ourselves in trouble,
Mhm.
because you have to have real
Yeah,
strong evidence to request this of an employee.
I would think so.
And rare as it may be, but if we don't have it in policy, can we not do it? If we ever felt like we needed to?
That's a good question.
Yeah, we need to be able to cover our butts.
Well, could Mr. Williams come to an employee and say, I'm worried about you. I really think you need to get some help.
Ooh,
What can we do to help you facilitate this? That seems to me like
that wouldn't go over really well with some people.
Yeah,
well,
that might
but you would
insult
hope that your
certain people.
supervisor has a working relationship with their employee. Where I think it might go over worse if you said, as part of board policy, I want you to get a mental health assessment.
Yeah, it could-
But if they're in denial, do we have to have that policy?
That's a
Or
good,
like,
that's a good
oh,
question.
That's a good
Yeah.
question.
It is.
I don't know.
That's a good question. Let's put that down as a question and look into that one.
We'll talk with Amy White.
Because you can't always count on goodwill and happiness.
Yeah,
No, no,
sometimes goodwill's got to be pushed ahead.
No, that's a really good question because I can see
see both sides.
both sides on that one. But like I said, I'm okay with keeping almost everything, keeping everything that's colored here. That's like for my recommendations, I think we keep everything that's yellow or blue right now and going through, but it can always be talked out of that. So
Yeah.
5240.
I'd say I had a yes on that one because
Yeah.
anything that has to do with sexual harassment or intimidation seems to be quite popular now.
Well, it's just probably good to have that a little bit, even though all of these things are part of code of ethics.
And
I
so-
think we can write it in a way
so
that.
The question is, does our Title IX policies already cover this? And I don't know.
That's a good question, because the Title IX policies were not, when other districts may put these in,
Right.
the Title IX policies weren't required until this last year.
Mhm.
And we have gone through Title IX already. And it's been clarified and stuff. And so I mean, if we put it in here, we would have to make sure that it was in agreement with our Title IX policy.
So I guess here's the question that I need to find out. Is Title IX just for students or is Title IX for staff? And that's the thing that's the difference.
It's probably just for students.
I think Title IX might just be for the students. So this would be required
Needed,
between staff to staff. That's why I think we keep it, but then we'll need to, because you can see on the cross-reference, it does have
It references
the
the
Title
Title
IX
IX.
grievance procedure.
Yeah, the Title IX procedure.
I
and
have
the-
taken the Title IX classes, but it's just, it's so much to
It's a
remember
lot.
Yeah.
everything on that. Okay, so that would be in the form on that one.
And when you go through these and cut and
Mhm.
it's referring to other policies, so we have to make sure that we
Yes.
did make those, no, up here in the,
Oh, up on the top.
yeah. well,
Inside of it, yeah, so
inside of
the
it.
3085 is our
Yeah.
Title IX.
So there's lots of things that are referred
Yes.
to in there. You have to make sure that their policy, if they're gonna call them policy.
Yep. Yeah, but it's quite extensive.
So Title IX protects everyone who interacts with the school from discrimination, including parents, guardians, students, employees, and applicants.
Okay.
So are we being repetitive with this?
I
then?
believe we would be. But that's something for you guys to decide.
What series is our Title IX?
It's the 3085, that's what this policy is referring to.
I'm not so sure
But
it
the
shouldn't be.
3000 series is students, isn't it?
I think
I
it
should
should
know
be
that,
in
yeah.
policy too.
You look how these are all, I think
We can leave it in and
Let's-
we would
let's
just
leave
make
it.
sure that they are in agreement
that's what I think.
with
we
each
do.
other.
Mhm.
So the form would have to be in agreement. 5250, we can go to,
Do you want to take that form out though? Because of our previous discussion of any change to that,
So
let's
this,
go through the process.
See, this where one form fits and one doesn't, that's where I get
Yeah.
all mixed up.
you want to pull up the form?
I got it right now.
That's all it is that top part.
So all this is saying is that we have every employee sign this. But they've been, we have our employees sign the code of ethics violations. So it's almost one of those things that, does this set us up where if you think of all the different things that we have going on at the beginning of the year, now I have one more thing where I have to have a form for everybody to sign to make sure that they know that that's there. And if I don't do that, then the employee can come back and say, I didn't know I couldn't sexual harass everybody because I didn't sign the form. You know, it's like,
Thing is, though, that sexual harassment, intimidation is so important in today's society that I don't think we can afford to not have them sign that.
well, we do have them sign the code of ethics, and in the code of ethics, it says that they won't have that either. And so
So we are already covered there.
I think we're covered with the code of ethics part of it. That they're aware of those. I think it just gives them one more step to say, oh, I didn't know that was a policy, but it's in your Idaho code of ethics for your.
I don't think anybody can play dumb anymore.
Well, I agree. Like, I don't want to underplay saying that I want to hide this that's not what my intention
No.
is. Because to have a safe and, appropriate workplace, these things do need to be adhered to. They are so important. And, we did cover code of ethics in our opening meeting, and I know that our safe schools training does have these types of trainings in them. 2 years ago, all of our staff went through this training 2 years ago.
So we have the code of ethics that our certified employees sign, and then we have a conduct agreement that all non-certified employees sign.
And where's the part about sexual
And if
harassment?
we just add a line in here that includes sexual harassment,
So it isn't there right now.
it is not here right now.
In the classified.
In the
staff.
classified, so if we added a line here, then we would be covered. And it's part of their new hire packet. They have to sign this to be hired.
So they've already signed for this year.
Yes.
And we can have them re-sign it, but even if we pass this, I would prefer having it in there because it's part of the packet instead of having a separate
Yeah.
thing. But
Mhm.
that's why we have these. See, that's why
Do
we
you
have
need
work
to
meetings,
reference?
so we can get
It
these
is.
things, like, that's exactly why.
So
we-
it does say in here, though, that never use inappropriate language such as profanity, put down sexual innuendos, jokes.
Needs to be stronger.
Right, and so if we just add
Because-
abide by,
There's to be no sexual harassment / intimidation in the workplace.
Yep. if we add that, would that satisfy that?
I think it would.
Mhm.
So
Do we
you
need to reference policy in those things?
I
Not
don't think you
necessarily.
do. I don't think you could, but I don't think you have to.
Okay.
Because it's not referenced doesn't mean the policy still doesn't exist.
You said employees did the safe school training 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Is that repeated every 2 years?
We-
So we catch the new hires?
We have other ones that we rotate through on the safe school trainings.
Mhm. So everybody's covered.
Yeah,
Right, but you don't want that. They see this form every year
They see this when they're hired,
when they're hired,
when they're hired.
and then I remind them about.
at the beginning of each school year,
Okay. Okay, so this is in their file, signed,
It is, yes.
in their file signed, yep.
without sexual harassment on it, so we need to get that done.
Yep. I've got it, we'll add it to it and put it in all the new files.
And since it's a procedure, we can just go do it.
Are you trying to get away from the board? I can
He's
see what's
saving us.
happening now.
No, the time saver for us.
I
That's what
get,
he's keeping in mind.
you're looking on the right side.
So we're gonna take the form out.
Yeah, take the form out. Oh. 5250, the staff grievances. This is one where we do have a grievance form that would need to be merged with this, that we did vote on. So this is talking about certificated staff grievances.
Yeah, I think that should be policy.
Yeah, that's what I agree too.
And you want to add the form? Or no?
Well, I'll look at that and see. I need to make a.
They can come to the board too on this.
Mhm.
And this one has a lot of different cross references to the different, the uniform grievance procedure. Really all the different things that go.
So anytime it references a policy, I will make sure that it,
that we have.
Right,
listed
and
in-
that it
does a
aligns
lot
and that it's
of these
there.
too.
Yes,
Yeah,
It's gonna be a lot of work.
it is a lot of work.
policy rewrite is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And initially, didn't ISB say like this will be done in a year? Is that what, like?
I did
Dreamers.
receive an email yesterday saying that we should have this done in the next month. I'm like, well,
We're trying.
we're working on it.
So my staff grievances. Investigation. Okay, put that one in. feel like we're moving.
Well,
We're halfway down the first page.
I think the child neglect reporting can keep that in there. That's just something that helps strengthen that.
yeah, is it anywhere else?
So
Well, it's part of the code of ethics.
we don't.
As an employee of a
Yeah.
school district, you are a mandated reporter of child abuse. And so if you're aware of child abuse and you do not contact Child Protective Services, you are actually,
So in that case, then it probably should be, shouldn't it? Because that's pretty strong. If something can happen to you by not following.
yes.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so. I
this
don't,
one, and
I don't
we
think we
can
need a
make
form,
sure
though.
that it's really clear for the teachers how, and we talked about it in our opening meeting with our teachers, but we can make sure it's clear to them how they can go about doing that and the support that they can get to do that.
let's look at, I don't feel like we need to have a form. that
We don't
covers-
want a form.
that accompanies that. Let's look at 5265, the employee responsibilities regarding student harassment. 265.
See, the thing is in policy, when it states something, we have to know we're doing it. So
Yeah,
under professional development, it says we provide ongoing professional development to assist school employees in preventing, identifying, intervening and responding to harassment, intimidation and bullying. Do we do that?
Yes.
in the safe school.
In our safe school, in our teacher meetings, in our,
Yeah. That's the part of, in the policy, it should say that will come back, the training and professional development is there. But I guess then it comes down, well, what should that look like? How extensive should that be?
Right.
And that's the part where, it falls down to administration. And that opens up the question, well, is it enough? Are we doing enough for that? But you'll start to get a feel that everything we talk about is important. And how do we do every single important thing all the time, 100%? It's like, and so I'm not trying to say it's not important. It's just trying to find that balance between how do we get our teachers to do all of this? But a lot of it goes right back to the board goal of having a safe and welcoming environment. And those types of things, as I talk with my administrators in our meetings, this is what we want to look like. This is what we want to, we want to be accommodating to parents, but we also want to make sure that it's a safe, friendly environment. So those are the types of things, even those types of conversations go along with professional development, and then they should be taking that to their staff as well. But that's a good point, though. About that, if it's in here, we better
be doing
be
it.
doing it.
Yeah, that's the scary thing about policy is there's a lot of things it says we have to do. So if it says it, we have to do it.
right.
Reporting process. Yeah, but I think we keep it in here and
Okay.
that. Table of contents.
So it also says under policy distribution. And
Which-
so that has to be clear to the very end. Oh,
Oh,
never mind.
I
Go
can-
through
At the very end of it, it says to distribute the policy.
annually and
So-
review with employees.
Right, so what we can do is we can look at that and see if we really want that to be part of the policy. If not, we
It
can
may
take
be
that
that-
out.
yeah.
It may be something that we're like, okay, we're not distributing it out.
Yeah,
It could be that we review these.
okay.
That's a good point. It's like it must be announcements for the high school.
Oh, is that what it is? Joe?
And you weren't here last time and we had to shut, like, you were the door
I
shutter.
was the door shutter, but I had giant arms.
Yeah.
Make sure the doors are-
That'll be your job.
The door shutter on that one. So the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are ones that,
What's that second one? 5275.
let's look at that.
Why do they have that plus the other?
Personal contact and,
Well, they've got harassment up here. They've got,
see, that's why I think when we see this, they have it it's just They have everything.
Do you want to
Yeah,
pull
okay.
that one
Everything.
open? It's in the procedure.
Yeah,
folder.
which,
5275.
so we looked
So
at
does it add
52.
anything to anything that we didn't get in the other
Yeah.
one?
I don't know.
I don't,
It's the
I think a
case.
lot of them are repetitive.
Yeah.
Carrie, do you have a
Power
cord
cord?
for this?
Yes.
So 5275. For the purpose of this policy, sexual misconduct is defined as any sexual activity directed at a student regardless of age with the purpose of developing a romantic or sexual relationship. It includes activities that are, all of these things are in the code of ethics already.
Okay,
And just,
seems, yeah, it seems like we don't need that.
Yeah.
Personal conduct, probably there too,
yeah, which one's for personal conduct? It's
5270.
270. Let's pull that one right quick. Okay. This is just another policy saying that our teachers will keep the code of ethics.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So,
Then we have the code of ethics.
yeah. The code of ethics already. Professional Standards Commission. Again, so if a teacher breaks the code of ethics, we report that, or employee, not teacher. Don't want to think I'm attacking teachers, a teacher or administrator.
Sure.
Then that could be taken to the code of ethics.
Okay.
Solicitations, 5285. Peek on this one.
Probably trying to sell things in the faculty room.
Yeah, teachers will not sell, solicit, or advertise for sale for personal gain, any merchandise or service, or teachers organize students for such purposes without the approval of the superintendent.
So is that covered somewhere else?
That's a good question. I think that this would be a pretty easy one to have in here.
Hasn't this come up before in this school that
I think
teachers
so.
sell during their
People were
lunch
selling,
hour or
yeah.
something
Mhm.
like that? I remember something
We
about
did
that.
talk about it. What we decided they could during their lunch hours.
Yeah, what did we decide on that?
I think we were more focused on social media during lunch hour.
Social media.
There wasn't so much selling of things, but
We could keep this one in here.
Thanks,
It'd
Carrie.
be easy. I don't
Give
think
it a
this
minute.
is. I don't know where this would be in a procedure anywhere.
I don't either.
Except no, it would be under the code of ethics again, because if you're using the school building for your personal gain. And I talked about that I did talk about that in the meeting already.
But some of my nicest holiday decorations come from faculty rooms. Before they do anything about that. We have the
That was in
neatest
Utah.
stuff.
That was in
Yeah.
Utah, right? Not in Idaho, when you worked in Utah.
Yeah, but I've got the nicest things.
well, when we were talking about teachers using or employees using social media during their lunch hour, did we decide that's their lunch hour, they can do what they want? So is it the same for this, or are we gonna say no during that 30
Well,
minutes?
even if it is their lunch hour, in the code of ethics, if they were, let's break this one down. Yeah, let's break this one down. What would this look like? So this would be me selling something.
Can you sell makeup? I think that'd be fun.
That was one of the things.
Yeah, because
That they sold.
like you look at,
We'll
Do
say
you remember
Shane
that?
sells makeup.
I'm selling makeup
Mhm.
and it's during my lunch hour, I think it would be okay. But if I'm doing it during the other part of it, I don't know, but then again, if I'm going and I'm making a copy of a flyer to put up, now I'm
can't do
using,
that.
you'd have to pay for that, but you shouldn't be copying it during school hours. You know, it gets
Mhm.
really messy. It gets messy quick.
Don't think school, any Copy machines should be used for anything personal.
No, and if they do, they pay
They
for
pay
it.
for
They
the
pay
copy.
for it. That's what we do now.
You do let them do personal work
If
because it can get to be pretty big sometimes.
If they're paying for it,
It's okay. We're
yeah,
ordering paper and everything for them.
yeah. If they pay for it, it's okay.
So like, for example, today, my son had homework he needed to print off that we didn't print off at home. So I paid for those copies that I printed because that was a personal use.
Or when my printer died.
We were not allowed to do that.
But how would we how would we really police that? It's better to have people pay for it and just do it, because if we say you can't do it, it's gonna be one of those other things. And now I'm walking around and we have some guy, with binoculars in the teacher's lounge waiting to see what comes through. And if we have to trust our employees, the same thing that it goes back to trust.
Yeah.
It goes back to trust, and kind of that's what this here is about as well. This kind of goes back to trust as well. And I think we have it in the code of ethics that if somebody is doing something on their own personal time, it's all right. But if you're using school district time to do it and school district equipment to do it, I honestly don't know of any. There probably is some that sell makeup. I know we use makeup as a hypothetical.
That was actually happening when we were talking about this.
Wallpaper.
So I don't know. Again, it goes back down to, does it need to be a board policy, or is it something that we can just still
We ever
address?
talked to teachers about this? Do they want their free time and no restrictions on that half hour, right? Can they leave campus?
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
Teachers can leave campus for a half
Yeah,
hour.
they just check in. They just tell the office I'm leaving campus, and then we know where they're at.
So we have no control over what they do for that half hour.
No.
So this goes against, this policy goes against what we're saying they can do.
Yeah.
We're saying they can do anything they want on their lunch hour, and we're saying teachers will not sell or solicit or advertise.
I think when they wrote this, they're thinking in the teacher workroom, in the lunchroom, that they're.
They're on their lunch though.
But here's where it gets. So let's say.
This could become an intimidation thing. Well,
Yeah,
I work
I'm
with you.
uncomfortable.
You need to.
You need to buy this from me. I feel sorry for you. If they're off campus, it's different. So
Wait a minute.
I was gonna say, let's say that I do pedicures. All right.
That's coming
I
out.
know. Like, let's just say that happens. And we're at lunch and the teachers are in, and I'm just doing a pedicure right quick on another teacher, and they're gonna pay me. I'm actually using the building as my pedicure salon
But you've just said we have no control over what teachers do on their lunch hour.
off of campus.
But you're saying that half hour is theirs to do what they want.
Off of campus.
So we better say that.
On campus, that's where the code of ethics comes in, where it says you should not use
You
the
cannot
school
use school property for personal
property
gain.
for personal gain. So if it's my lunch hour and and Ben Stillman lets me go over to his yard to do my pedicures, I could do that. But I have to charge at least $100 a half. It's like, it's $100 an hour. If I'm touching somebody's feet. That's gross.
Might be true.
This is just
Might be a
on.
good business. If it's $200 an hour.
If somebody's going back to listen to this, they've got to at least get to the pedicure conversation.
We gotta come back. So can you then take your lunch hour and promote your pedicure business on social media at your desk in your classroom?
That was actually happening. Not with pedicures, but other things.
That's where it gets really, really,
Are you using the school's network or the
Yes, you are.
school's device?
you shouldn't be able to do it.
If you're using your personal phone to
If
do
you're
it,
using your phone through your data, you could. But if you're
Okay.
using the school district's,
But who wants to police that?
not I.
that's
but-
why it's in code of ethics and not spelled out every little detail.
Why do we want to put this in?
No, so that was just a discussion. And it was a fun discussion until I
it
got off on the
was.
pedicures.
Yeah.
Makeup and pedicures, and Superintendent Williams does all sorts of things.
So
So out?
I think it's
So
out.
out.
I think it's out.
I can see us having this discussion again.
I do think we need to keep this one though, 5290, the political activity. Where should I have that?
What is this?
On 5290?
It just says you can't use any district facilities or resources, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it doesn't say that you can't be involved politically, but you just can't do it at school, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep, that's, it just kind of differentiate, distinguishes that.
That's the adjunct.
Yep. So keep that one. The next one,
Probably, yeah.
professional employee representation for purposes of negotiation. We're looking at 5295. 5295. In order for the district to engage in negotiations with an authorized local education organization upon board request, the organization shall be required to demonstrate has chosen 50% plus one.
This is already part of our negotiation.
It's part of the
process.
negotiations. But I don't think we want to put something like this in.
Yeah.
We have a great relationship with our teachers association, and something like this could be viewed as. you
Us
know,
not
the-
trusting them.
Exactly.
Do we have a union here?
We have an association.
We have an association which is different.
Okay.
The teachers union for Idaho is the IEA, the Idaho Education Association. Teachers can join that themselves if they would like to. Then when you become part of a formal union or association like that, it comes with it with different, they say different protections that the union would offer.
Right.
So we may have some teachers that individually do that, but it's very few. And they would have to have 50% plus one of the IEA union to be the one that would be the lead voice. But that's not the lead voice. And we recognize as a board, or have traditionally recognized, the West Jefferson Teachers Association. Difference with that is when you're part of the IEA, you have your monthly dues that you pay to that. Whereas I'm actually not even sure what our,
I think just all teachers are part of the association here. Then
Yeah,
they
so
don't have to pay.
there's no
and-
dues with the local
No.
association.
I don't, not that I
Not with,
know
not
of.
with the West Jefferson one, no.
Okay.
We
So-
actually had them do our negotiations for us in Utah, and then we joined just because they had an insurance against any
Yeah,
lawsuits.
and there are some districts that are really high union districts. And so I think it just goes back down to trust, and what's worked at West Jefferson is that the association feels that the board has their best interests in mind, and we've proven
So
that.
this one
So,
doesn't go in.
yeah, I don't think we need that one. So that's 95. Tobacco-free policy. This was a blue one. Keep it, other districts have had it, but I'm not sure. C 52.
Felony to use tobacco products on school property.
Is that for everybody?
So
5310.
what if patrons come to like a football game and they're
They,
chewing
That's a
tobacco?
felony.
we should ask them to not, but I'm not gonna check everybody's mouth. You know. I gotta stop. I was gonna like pedicure, and I'm a dentist. Like, it's not gonna happen.
Don't quit your day job, Mr.
But this one
Williams.
here, though, might be something that, because we have to have some of those conversations with patrons as well, it's nice to
To
have
say
that,
it's policy.
that the board policy is there.
Right.
And that way they're not going, oh, Shane, you're judging us because I'm using a tobacco product. And no, it really is a,
And it does
federal
include
law.
vape.
what's that?
It
It
doesn't,
does include the vape.
It does.
does it have chewing to
Yep.
Yeah,
tobacco?
all types of tobacco.
Okay,
Smokeless tobacco.
is that what chewing tobacco is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Smokeless, so I say.
So we
keep
do
that
want
one.
that.
Absolutely. Um. 5320 is required. Keep that. The drug and alcohol abuse testing program and procedures. We don't need that.
We're not gonna do that one.
Not the procedures.
Drug and alcohol abuse testing acknowledgement. Let's look at that one, 5320 Form 1. This was one that other districts had. What is this form? Just a second, let me go back and look at this table of contents.
So it's a form.
A form
for-
that follows up that yellow one.
Yes.
So let me pull up the yellow one. 5320.
Do we need to have a form if it's law not to?
Well, what the form has is just that this one here is saying that the use of this, all employees.
It's,
Yeah,
And
it's for
this.
everybody to sign.
it's in this.
It's in there.
Mhm.
But we have to have 53 or 5320
Right,
as part of it, but if it's.
but
if
you
the
don't have to have
form-
a form to accompany it.
Because we have it,
We have it in here
There.
and it's part of code of ethics,
yeah,
which they sign as well.
yep, I don't, so we can get rid of the form then. Form is out.
Form 2.
Yeah, that's.
So
Is
let's look
that
at,
repetitive?
let's just look at it.
So
just to
it
see.
allows you to choose between the forms, which one you would want to use.
I'll pull up Form 2.
Well, one,
Does any of these mention about the testing agreement? Does 5320 have a testing?
red, this tells you that you know. That's all it does.
Pre-employment testing?
And it. Well, you know, on that 50, where are you, 5320?
Yeah, I'm back to 5320. So this is the one that's whenever the board through its authorized designee reasonably suspect that employees' work performance or on the job behavior may have been affected in any way by illegal drugs or alcohol, that employee has otherwise violated the district's drug-free policy, the employee may be required to submit a breath, saliva, urine, and or blood sample for drug and alcohol testing. So that 5320 does say that we can't have, we could offer the testing or require testing of any employee.
Okay, so I have a question. If we suspect an employee of being on drugs, couldn't we give that to Deputy Keller to take care of? And he would, and
Well,
as a officer, he could request testing? I'm just,
yeah, well, we would have to have somebody that has that test be able to help us out. I don't think we need to explain
don't-
why or how
Right.
we do it. But the form is just, isn't this basically just, again, it's another form that says,
I agree to be tested.
I agree to be tested.
Says I've received a copy of the policy and agree to abide by it. And if I refuse to sign this document, it constitutes a refusal to test.
Is a refusal to test just an automatic positive?
In the trucking world, it is.
Is it?
And our bus drivers are subject to random
DOT.
testing
Mm.
because of their license.
What should other employees be?
I don't like random tests or
I don't know.
again, I don't think so. I think it's a solution looking for a problem at this point. If we were suspecting it more, maybe we could go down that.
And nothing
line.
says it later on that you guys couldn't decide to add something in.
Mhm.
So it's, I guess these
I don't know if we're
forms
allowed
to do what? To test,
just
randomly test
randomly
employees?
test
I don't
employees.
think so. I think we have to have suspicion.
Well, you have to have a job performance problem, right?
Well, go back into this. This is where 52, 5220, the yellow one. So we're at 5320.
Which is
Yeah,
required.
it's 7 pages long. There's a lot. in
Yeah.
there.
So the forms are just basically saying that I know that I had that test,
That I may be subject to this.
that I may
if-
be subject to it.
It's just an acknowledgement of the,
But aren't you anyway without signing that?
Exactly.
Right.
It's just one more step going.
So I don't think we need to have a,
I don't think we need to have the
Well,
forms.
that could cause a serious problem. That's
Yep.
in-
well, I didn't sign that, so you can't test me.
Yeah. All right, let's go to
Social media.
social
sites.
media where I'm selling my pedicures.
And makeup.
This makes it more fun. This could be a really dry meeting, you guys. This could be.
It is, to
Like, how exciting is
be honest.
policy
policy.
yeah, well,
on this one? So
be a sleeper.
I think we want this one.
I
Mr.
think
Williams.
we want to keep it as
Okay,
well.
but I've got here, that as I was reading this, I know that we have a policy for this already. Is our policy better than this one? We worked a long time on that, didn't we?
And well, was it followed through? Did
I
did
don't,
anything come from our discussions with our?
well, I thought we approved it.
I'm sure we did, but.
Yep.
It kind of didn't mean anything back then.
Maybe not. I just remember working hard on it. Don't you?
Well,
So part of. the
is there
problem
something
with
that,
this-
is there something that you did that's not on here or?
Well, I don't. I don't know if ours is better or this is better.
Do they have an option 1 or an option 2?
No use of social media during work hours or
Uh,
limited use.
District computers and time are reserved for district related business.
See, the problem is now a lot of district related businesses, social media.
Exactly. Like we have our, so if I pull up Facebook and pull up the district Facebook site, am I now
In violation.
in violation of that?
So we'll have
It
to
says
just,
it says for personal purposes, but if I'm gonna get to that, I might see, it's one of those things.
you might see someone asking you to do a pedicure form.
No.
But this is
I
through our.
think the
edits.
problem we had back when we were talking about it, and I might be wrong, but weren't we worried about teachers conversing with students and having students as friends and having,
That was
No,
part
Yeah,
of it.
that was part of it.
And we do talk to them about that.
But is it
It's
anywhere?
right here, contact with students.
Mhm.
Although it is desired that staff members have a sincere interest in students as individuals, particularly and the appearance of impropriety, and my tongue is not working, must be avoided. Code of ethics again says that listing current students as friends on networking sites is shared available.
Does this have a revised date on it? This seems very familiar. Maybe
Yeah.
this is what
So ISBA did take some of our stuff
okay.
and included it.
Mhm.
So maybe this is something we did. I don't know.
It seems familiar because
did
then we
it.
got into the argument of, well, what about coaches and students? They've got to have communication.
Yeah, we did.
So when
Mhm.
Amy White has done her trainings with districts, I've attended a couple of hers. She talks very specifically about these things. And because she has dealt with coaches who have done that, teachers who have done that,
Right.
And we have to be real careful, And it gets kind of tricky for people, especially when they live in the same district that they teach in.
Mhm.
You know, maybe I'm serving in a church position where I'm working with the youth. You know, and so it's really hard for them, but I think something like this makes it really clear. And helps them to know what they are and aren't allowed to do, and they can really easily say, I can't be your friend on social media because of these things.
Mhm.
Yeah, it makes it difficult because you're trying to get communication out. I think the biggest thing is that it's communication goes to groups
Yeah, I
instead of
think that's what we
individually. I
talked
think
about,
because
groups and not just,
So if you need to
One-on-one.
contact a member of your team, you either contact the whole team
mhm,
or you contact that member and their parent on the same thread.
So down in 10, it says, under rules,
Mhm.
it says that it has to comply with the district's policy 5335, and there isn't one.
So we would take that out if we didn't put that in.
I guess it's talking about the forms, maybe. There's several forms for it, but there's no
So-
policy.
So the 5335 is talking about employees' use of the electronics that they
Yeah, but
are.
it's just a form. Oh, wait a minute, it's not a form.
There's A1, A2, A3.
we'll want to look at 3335,
It's just,
especially
Yeah, it's not even
just-
listed.
especially since we want to keep this policy. Go through. and
But we
look
don't
at it.
have to include that part in the policy.
Yeah,
Where is 5335?
We're only on 5325.
I know, but
Yeah.
I was
So it's
just
a little
looking
bit
and there
farther
isn't
down.
one.
Yeah, I'll
If
pull
you
it up.
flip over your table of
I'll,
contents.
Yeah,
I'll
it's on
pull
the back side.
53.
It isn't there though.
No, it's not in the handouts, but it is on
Right.
the, we didn't include that. These 5335, which one?
Well,
A2,
just the plain
A3,
one.
7A, they have, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them.
It doesn't reference a specific one, does it? It just says 5335.
Yeah. All right, that's really confusing when they have personal communication devices, personal digital assistants and PDAs. High school handbook has PDA is a different thing.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
It also has pagers.
Parent safety files. Entering software. I don't know.
I think this stuff is getting into the weeds of the details.
Initially it does. Let's get started with, we'll keep this one here, the social media.
Okay.
And once we go through and start looking at it, I think it will open itself up to whether or not we need to do or not. Recommended practices for use of social media sites? Nope. So going back, we don't need to have a 25P employee electronic mail and online service uses 33. Let's look at that.
5330.
5330. It also has a form. Hey, congratulations, we're on page 2 of the
We're lying.
flying through.
Oh, we haven't tackled this one yet. So much.
I say, let's leave these as procedures.
Yes.
Just go all the way, because that's gonna take this last one, the 5330, and then basically all these other agreements as procedures as needed. Doesn't mean they're all gonna be procedures. So just- Which takes us to the evaluation of certified personnel. It is required that we'll keep that one. Let's close out some.
Would you mind if we took
No,
a quick break?
everyone okay with that?
I'm not irrigating on that. Get-
Do I need to go get you a Dr. Pepper?
For what?
We did get a-
Ask for more lively conversations.
Come on.
Keep you awake.
He was struggling to stay away.
I might go have to read She's candy closet.
Madam
Covered.
Chair.
Good camera.
I think it's intentional.
Okay,
All right, so I'm unmuted, but I'm not sure that one there is still muted, is that right?
that's mine.
Okay. So we should be back. Are you hearing?
We're delayed.
So Madam Chair, we should be back online, but we'll wait to verify.
Yep, we have
We're good?
audio.
Okay.
Okay, we were at 5340.
5340 is the evaluation of certified personnel. This one is required. We'll go through and we'll make sure that what's written in here is consistent with what we're doing in the district. That one.
The form then. So this is a form for parent and guardian input.
Let's look at that one and see. 5340. We haven't had an exact form, but parent input is accepted. I know that the elementary has their own forms. I don't think we need to have this specific form on here. Because that would be something that could go along the lines of having a form that now the teachers association would need to come in and have at least feedback on, but if it's a procedure, we just move forward with it. So we continue to keep that out. The next 1, 2, 3, 4 are ones that are not required, but ones that I feel that need to be in there. Certified personnel resignation, lease of contract, 5350.
Okay. We did the dress and appearance. I wonder if they kept ours.
Well,
It looks kind of like it.
Yeah, we'll look and see. I'll be able to look right away. I would like to keep this one. This is one that just outlines it. If a teacher signs a contract and wants to get out of it, that we would have to follow these reasons for it to let them out. So that would be one that we definitely want to keep. 5360, the dress and appearance. This one is not,
This isn't ours, but we will use.
we will
ours.
use ours.
I was gonna say, we
Yep.
did a good one.
Ours is nice
Yep.
and simple.
Mhm.
Yep, this is where we will keep the one that we just barely put in. So that will continue with the one that we had. I agree, I like ours as well. Non-school employment by professional staff. Numbers 5370. Staff members outside work or self-employment is of concern to the board insofar as it may prevent the employee from performing assigned responsibilities in an effective manner. Full-time employees position in the district shall take precedence over any type of outside work or self-employment.
Do we really want to? Walk into this minefield?
Well, well, a lot of teachers have extra jobs
They do.
and they work all summer in an extra job, but do they ever let that stop them from coming to our professional development or
No.
something that, you know?
Well, I don't think we need to have a policy on this. On this one here.
I'm not thinking we do either.
Okay, 5370 is,
No.
it's gonna be out.
I put a no there and I put a no on the next one.
And 5380. That one. This is another one that probably. Yeah, I don't think we need this. This one here is just saying, any research done by teachers during school time becomes the school's property.
This would also prevent teachers from utilizing anything they design to share with other people.
Yeah,
They
Don't
don't,
want that.
do they really have time to research things during
no, I,
board time?
here's where I could see in other districts where maybe they have different departments that are creating learning samples and things that they don't take that and sell them themselves. That it's used for the district. I don't
But we
see
don't
it.
have that.
I don't see it being applicable to us. And I just see it as a page in the policy manual that
Is that necessary?
unnecessary. If it becomes necessary, we could easily. 5390 is required, employment referrals and prevention of sexual abuse. So I don't think we need to go into that since it will be in there. The 5395 whistleblowing. 395, let's just look at that and see.
Is this just protecting whistleblowers?
Which they already have protection. With law, so.
There it is, right there.
Which one?
The district shall not take adverse employment
Yeah.
action against an employee who notified the district of wrongdoing.
And we already have that in our form with our the complaint resolute, or the complaint form that we have in place already on our website has that in there already, that retaliation against
There will be no retaliation for reporting.
for reporting.
Can we go back up for a minute?
Yeah,
There's a reference to another policy.
41.
If the
20.
superintendent is the one doing the wrongdoing. 4120.
Better look into that.
Yes, that's already in policy that,
If he's doing pedicures on.
right, that there would be
Lawn.
somebody else
Now we're
investigating.
going- Look what I started.
Okay.
I remember writing that.
The 4120.
Yes.
It seems like there's a lot of overlap and.
Yeah, that's the part that we're with all this conversation is, do we need to have all the overlap?
Mhm.
Simplify.
Okay,
So is that a no on 5395?
I think so.
we'll keep it procedure.
Okay.
Compensation and benefits, leaves of absences, proof of illness for sick leave bank.
Can you pull up the 5400?
Yes. So a lot of these are already, they got tied into the master agreement. And so, and I don't know when they got tied into the master agreement and put into the master agreement, now they were subject to negotiation with the association. So even if the board were to want to change some of the things that not contradictory, but just change it and simplify it, it's stuck in master agreement. If you recall, when we started the master agreement discussions this year, I wanted to clarify the reduction in force not procedure, but just the steps of the reduction in force. And we had it in policy, but then it got put into, like, they kept it into the master agreement.
Right.
And so then if we wanted to change it, the Teachers Association basically has to also approve it. And so
Does this then cover other employees
the leave of absences,
or proof of illness or sick leave?
so we haven't gone down that line. Again, it's one of those, like, we want to trust people. Some districts have made it where they don't differentiate between personal days and sick days. They just say they're your leave days.
Right.
Employees that retire in Idaho, their leftover sick days actually help them purchase medical insurance after they are, so they are worth it to the employee after they retire. But there are some people that as soon as they get it's like having a money in your pocket, you know, burns through quick, they leave, they want to use it up. Those employees are few and far between in our district. I don't see that being the case with our employees.
During COVID, we required a note if they wanted to use their leave as COVID. We had no problem getting that from the employees.
Well, you're just saying these things are covered for the teachers in the master agreement, but are they covered elsewhere for other employees? So you're comfortable leaving them off, is what I'm wondering.
Yeah, there's classified.
There's
right there.
classified.
And this is all part of our procedure.
So you don't feel like it needs to be in policy then?
And a lot of this is guided by employee rights laws. So if you have an employee that works more than 20 hours, you have to offer these benefits. You have an employee that works more than 30 hours, you have to offer these
We
benefits.
deal in comp time. Or do we just,
The only employees that get comp time are those who are exempt.
Exempt means
I mean,
they're not an hourly employee.
They're not an
Right.
hour employee, they just have a salary.
mhm,
And so our employees that would fall under that would be our superintendent, our business manager, our maintenance supervisor,
Technology.
tech.
and our technology supervisor, because those positions do So
Meeting is now streaming live. Looks like we might be back.
we are back, Mrs. Cherry.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. DeGraw. We had a little technical difficulty there and we did pause our discussion, so we will get back into it here.
Share that first one.
$5,400.
So we were discussing, I don't know when the audio left, but let's put 5,400 on the list as one that we will bring in. As we go through that, I'll just make sure that whatever is referenced in the master agreement is just put into here, and then that way we'll know that we can't touch that without at least having negotiations with the teachers. So it takes us to 5405 and 5407. I think we could look at proof of illness for sick leave. I think that's kind of mentioned in 5400 when that we'll look at
Right.
that. And a sick leave bank might also be mentioned in that. Let's look at that 5407.
And do we have a sick leave bank here?
We do have a sick leave bank.
Okay.
And that's one that could stay procedure too.
And do you withdraw one sick day from everybody to
That-
fill
that
that?
joint-
bank?
If
Is that
if
how you
people
do
want
that?
to join, they contribute 2 of their sick days.
Two,
Mm.
okay.
Yeah.
So you have to join this, it's not just for.
No, it's not automatic. It's something that people can choose to do.
All right.
Can Mrs. DeGraw put something on there with what we're doing
We wanna
currently? We want to just make sure that we have a procedure that's currently with what we're doing on sick leave bank.
I recognize this stuff. I've seen it with the paperwork that has come across with sick leave bank.
Yeah. It's a good thing to have.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely is. Required family and medical leave, we'll keep the 5410 and 5410. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like they stable again, but I think we can
still hear you.
keep those all on procedures unless there's one that jumps out on one of those. I think though, I believe,
On all of them down from.
yeah, between family and medical leave and
Yeah. Jury,
do you see any there?
Jury
Yeah,
duty
Carolyn,
to
you went
workers'
through.
compensation.
I don't think there are any
Okay,
that are a word.
okay, then we have leave of absence for military leave and leadership premiums.
Now, military leave can be sticky sometimes. It's a good thing that's policy.
Yep. Let's look at 5480. I just want to see if that is consistent with what our leadership premium plan is.
Oh, we do want to make sure it's part of it, follows our plan.
Yeah. So we'll make sure the plan will follow that.
I've noted that.
Okay, noted.
It
Certificated.
looks like they took directly from Idaho
Code.
code.
That's how we wrote ours. So certificated personnel records, 5,500 is going to be the one that whole and this is when Mrs. DeGraw, as we were talking welfare.
That has to be checked, see if we do all of that. If
Mhm.
everything's in that employee's file, it says it is.
Yes, and that's what with HR, this one here, this is what governs what we do with all of our personnel files.
Okay, so you are
So we're,
pretty well
yep,
already doing that.
yep, we have to keep this one in. So that one will be kept, 5,500 is in. 5,500P,
I don't think it needs to be included. We already have procedures in place.
For sending to the
And it's
district.
common
Yeah.
practices throughout districts, you send a release form signed by the employee.
But we'll keep that one in, we'll keep that one
We
in
can keep the
procedures.
policy. I don't think we need the procedure in the policy manual.
I think that's a good one for procedures.
Okay.
It even says procedures.
It
Yeah.
does.
What else do you want?
But there are some procedures that are required to be in policy, so.
Go
Just
figure.
haven't seen it quite so blatant.
Go figure.
All thumbs or fingers.
Employee health and welfare, these are not required. We have staff health, prevention of disease, safety management program, and district personnel.
Has anything changed with COVID on these? Anything?
Nothing required. Everything that we have with our safety plan, we can keep it in place on what we've currently done. And that allows us to move back. All of this kind of got pushed into our safety plan anyway. But by keeping these in procedures allows us to have that safety plan supersede all of this anyway. But then, and again, we'll just keep those in procedures. Employment practices, we have 5,700 with substitutes. Not sure if we need to have it in policy, but we can look and see what this procedure mentioned. So 5,700.
Well, it does talk about the rate for certificated and non-certificated, and we did that last meeting. We did approve our substitute rates,
Yeah,
and we did distinguish between certificated and non-certificated, so.
so we can put that into this part.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay. Let's do that. Get that noted. So 5,700 with the substitutes. We need to put the pay, where we've approved the pay for those.
Adjust our pay schedule.
Mhm.
I'm glad we did that. I think that's.
Yeah.
I think that was a good thing.
So 5,700. Paraprofessionals, teachers, aides, and paraeducators is one that we can keep in procedures, since a lot of them are private sector providers and consultants. Let's look at 5,725.
So on compensation, it says that the board has to approve invitations and arrangements for visitations by these people. So
So we do that through an executive session when we show the contracts that we enter in, the different groups that would fall under this as private service providers are school psychologists, the occupational therapist, the speech therapist,
The physical therapist.
physical
and the
therapist, and the mental health
mental health
clinician.
counsel.
So those are all ones that board still does approve it. We're still going through that in each year.
So it doesn't mean a formal approval. It just means that we have to come to an agreement in executive session, if that's what we'll do, because we don't really vote.
You come
We
back,
do in the personnel items.
when you come back out on the personnel items.
Oh, okay.
on the
Yeah,
consent
so when you
agenda.
vote, you approve those.
We're approving. So if we don't want to approve that, we need to speak up in an executive session.
You would say that, and then,
And then here you would say, I vote nay,
Yeah.
and you don't have to, you shouldn't state a reason.
you just have to say at least, and then just go that other route. So I think
Okay, that's what I thought.
we keep that in there. This is just helpful just to make sure that.
So are we leaving that one in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Volunteer authorization to release information. 7:30. Since we're getting there. Going through
We're
these.
close.
We are.
We've been-
So we actually have a volunteer packet that volunteers fill out as if they're being hired. So I don't know that this would be necessary because we already have a procedure for that.
Do you get fingerprinted?
Background checks.
Anyone that will be working one-on-one with students.
There are other volunteers that will come in, but they're not left with students. And so if there's, but any volunteer that wants to come in and be an extended volunteer, they go through all the background check and then they'll be.
Teacher would never leave them in the classroom alone with
Right.
students.
Yeah. The reduction in force, this is one that I think will start. It's required to have, but this is the tricky part because it got put into the teacher negotiations. Yeah, on 5740.
Does it just disagree with anything we have here? I mean, does it go?
So it will have to agree with what's in the master agreement
Right.
unless we wanted to reopen
Yeah.
negotiations
Here
with
it
them.
says, the need for implementation of a reduction in force or the elimination of certificated positions is left to the sole discretion of the
57.
board.
So it still
Yes.
will be. It still will be. But the procedures or the steps that you take in that, because it was put in the master agreement, now if we're going to change those, that's where they wanted to do it. And the language that's currently in it is archaic. It's referring back to evaluation models that we don't even follow anymore. And so I did present to the association updated language with what we can use with the form and everything to make it just very clear. But again, there was some, anytime they hear reduction in force, I think there's some caution that they want to take, which is rightfully, which is understandable for that. But I can say that the current one is actually more, like if I'm looking at it, it's the current one is more harmful to teachers than the one that I was even proposing. And so I don't know why, I guess they just didn't have time. I think it was just the end of the year. And so as we
were
start going,
pressed for time.
and so as we go through this, I'll take these two policies to Mr. Hall and say, this is what we're looking at. Give us your feedback. And so if they're okay with that, that's going to give them the voice on at least the process. The part that they can't take out are things like the board has sole discretion on when we go into it. So they can't change, because that's Idaho code. They can't change what it does, but what they can have input in feedback on, like all of this stuff in this 5740, these are all things that will stay the same. But when you look at the 5740P, some 40P that is. On different things that are available, the different steps that they have here, that's where they have some say in going, we want this to meet the different things. And I have one that I've already proposed to them. Like I said, I think this one here should be a chart with a rubric. There you go.
Takes out the bias.
So this is where they would go in. I need to go full screen, sorry guys. So this is where every single teacher would have some type of thing that we would look at it and they get points available. Because the reduction of force needs to be unbiased. One of the things that did come up, in law, it says that we can't base it on first one in, first one out. That's what law says, but I know the association they didn't like that because they felt like seniority should carry more weight. But that might be the biggest issue, that we have to look at other criteria besides just that. It can't be
Well,
solely
Yeah,
first one in, first one
subject
out.
matter.
Yeah.
All kinds of things.
All sorts of things. So that one will continue. But we will include the association with those two. 5750, that's governed by policy or procedure. It doesn't need to be in. It's also governed by laws. Classified employment, assignment, and grievance. So there is a 5800, which is required. We'll keep that one. The grievance procedure, I think it just follows the same one. I don't think we need to have that. It's required to have the overtime and compensatory time for the employees. Moving to the last page. Look at this. Employee compensation by annualized election. We'll keep that one.
This is policy that they have, that they can choose how they want to be paid.
Yes. So we can either pay our hourly employees or even our teachers can be paid on a 9-month pay cycle, where they would be paid for 9 months and then the 3 summer months they wouldn't be paid. So that's just,
The majority of our employees though
12
are
months.
on the equalization.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
12
they get
months.
paid every month
Yeah.
through the year.
And classified, just, they're
Classified, the
just
majority
time
of them are
card, and they
paid.
work all year long.
So our 9-month employees are classified. I don't know that we have anybody right now that's not unequalized. We have a few 12-month employees that are hourly instead of equalized. But the majority of them are. This allows us, by generating a paycheck, it allows us to maintain their benefits through the summer.
Yeah,
so the notice of salary payments, this was a blue one. Mrs. Grau, what are your thoughts on this from the payroll side? Let me pull up 5815.
Yeah, we pulled that up.
5815A.
2.
Don't know if that's it.
So that's you're in the policies, so that's A1. If you go over to the procedures list, that's where the A2 will be.
5815A2,
Yeah.
A2F. So we already have our forms and things that we have
Okay.
in place. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
So we don't need that.
As part of their, for the classified, as part of their letters.
Yeah, We take
They
care of
have
that.
the option to come to us and say, no, I want to be paid over my 9 months, not my 12.
okay, evaluation of non-certificated staff, evaluation of school bus drivers, drug and alcohol testing for drivers, those are all required. We'll keep those in.
On that, it says new employees shall receive a 90-day review. Do we do that?
Evaluation of non-certified staff, is it in that one?
It says they shall receive a 90-day review of their performance, new employees. I suppose we do that.
They're always being
Not
reviewed,
formal.
but I don't know if there's a formal
I
one.
just wonder if that statement,
We can take that out.
well, if
Unless
they
you
need a
want it in
review,
there.
they probably need a review,
Well-
but is it something that's formal?
It's not formal.
I don't know if we have a form that they fill out, but I know that all of the supervisors are given opportunities and chance to always give feedback to them. So I guess we could look at and see, I don't know if we need a formalized review though, like a form that they have and say, here's your 90-day review.
it just adds more paperwork.
New employees shall receive a 90-day review.
I think we could look at the wording on that.
Yeah,
Because legally we have to keep it.
But we can change how we
but
A
create.
verbal review?
a verbal
The
review instead of a
supervisor
formal.
shall provide a copy of the completed evaluation
Mhm.
to the staff member and shall provide an opportunity to discuss the evaluation. I think evaluations are really important.
And that's only for new employees is what this policy is saying.
But I think that's very important that they know how they're doing.
It is.
And if there's an evaluation, a copy, why isn't there a form here? There isn't. So
Well, you
have
would
to-
create your own. And we have an evaluation form
Well,
for
is it-
non-certified staff.
Is it used for this?
It's not used for that. It's used at the end of the school year. We
But they do have informal reviews going on throughout.
Well, this wording then, I mean,
Yeah,
It has
that's,
to be changed.
So the
the
question
original
is-
shall be signed by the staff member and filed with the superintendent. The results should be placed in the employee's personnel file.
Which I
That whole
think-
thing talks about.
and so
performance review.
not to disagree about having the review or the feedback, because feedback's really important for
It is.
growth.
It is.
But again, you look at our different departments. Does Mr. Soderquist have time
I
to
think
now?
he needs to take time. He doesn't have that many employees.
No, but if you're thinking about everything he's trying to do, it's easy for us to say, well, it's just one more thing to get to. He still is visiting with them. So if there was the absence of visiting with an employee, he's always visiting with them and saying, these are the things that you need to do. This is what needs to be done. They don't need to sit down and say, let's write this all down into a form.
It's very
Maybe only in
important.
extreme cases where you're having a problem.
But those,
So-
those
so then you
cases
do
when you're
create
having
a
a
record.
problem, you need to be able to look back and say, I documented this. I did your evaluation. I gave you some things to work on. And now we're meeting again and I don't see those things
But
being
this-
But
done.
if he's working,
But this is something where if you have a policy that says it has to have a formal review with this form, and we're in a right to work state where the employee can quit at any time, or the employee could be, this actually ties our hands more by saying if there's an employee that needs to be relieved, they'll say, well, I didn't get my 90-day evaluation.
So
And he should've.
question, there's nothing that would prevent a supervisor from saying, I'm having a problem with this employee. And the superintendent saying, I want you to do a review, an evaluation on them. A formal evaluation and give them feedback. And then in a month, I want you to do it again. So simply because it's not in policy doesn't mean that we couldn't do it if we were having a problem with an employee.
You could still address the ones that need it.
The question is, does every employee need to have a 90-day written evaluation?
New employee.
But isn't it required?
New, I would think so.
I thought yellow was required.
The policy is required, not necessarily the wording. We could change it to every employee will receive an evaluation concluding at the end of each school year.
That's all this is about. That's all this
Okay,
is.
so we
It's an
change the
evaluation.
timing.
What good is it if it's called evaluation of non-certificated staff.
Right, so why does it have to be 90 days after they start, or why
Could-
can't it be at the end of the school year?
Well, but could it be? Could you say within the first, that they have an interview with them, what, like, the supervisor will sit down and discuss,
If you don't have a record, though, who's to believe who?
but what's the record, what's the whole purpose of this?
To have a record of how that employee is doing, that new employee, so that you have something to go back to. if you
But,
need to.
but legally, for who's it protecting, I guess, the policy.
I guess I'm wondering why they're saying in yellow on this, they want you to have this in here, and we're saying we don't want to do that.
Not do it exactly how they want to do it.
Just
We
make,
want to
just make
adjust
the
how it's
timing a
done.
little different, right?
Correct.
Like, it's still gonna be, it's the evaluation of non-certified staff, we have yearly evaluations of
You know,
non-certificate
we
staff.
hire
Right, but I'm talking, this says new.
Okay, so we hire a new employee in November.
This up here says each employee shall be evaluated each year.
Right,
This says new employees.
okay, so we hire, just a
After 3
hypothetical,
months.
we hire a new employee in the middle of November. Who's gonna make sure that 90 days from middle of November,
Under supervisor.
Mhm. Well,
Because-
whether it's done 90 days later or at the end of the year, it takes the same amount of time to fill out that paper.
however, you would then have
Still
to
gotta
do it
do it.
90 days and at the end of the year. And it's the
If we
timing
had
of
100
making sure
employees,
that
new
it's done.
employees, I'd worry about them, but
Well, if you're having a problem with an employee, you're not gonna wait 90 days.
Well,
So we're looking at it from two different sides, like with this discussion, we're looking at it from the paperwork from the supervisor's side,
which seems minimal to me.
but it's just one more thing, because like, I'm thinking of the special ed department. You have a new employee that comes in, they have weekly to monthly meetings where they're sitting together. There's daily feedback going on from supervisors to those paras about this is what we need to do. I need to see this better. Now those same employees are having to follow all of the procedures with special education, all the different things with special education. And now they have one more thing to say, I've got to go back and get this formal 90-day evaluation.
How many people
For
are you
that.
talking about? New employees.
Right now, 5 or 6 with that, but it's on top of all of the other requirements that they have. And they're going back and forth trying to put out fires all day long. It's one more thing that you're saying, okay, the supervisor shall provide a copy of the completed evaluation to the staff member and shall provide an operating discuss the evaluation. But this is interesting
So when you
though.
become an employee, a supervisor, you automatically take on more responsibility than the normal person. And you have, that is part of, a big part of your responsibility is to evaluate your employees, the people that work under you. And I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm
No,
just-
no, but you guys see it from a different point of view.
So really the only thing that's different is
That one
That
line
one
that
line.
that
says,
line right there.
you take that out and this is in line with our current.
With what we're
policy.
doing.
And I'm just saying, I don't know if I want it taken out. That's
Yeah,
all.
that's
What do
what-
you guys think?
That's what we would discuss as we put it up there.
Mhm.
I'm curious on what you guys are thinking.
I can see where you're coming from, but I guess I see it as if you're working with that person, that individual day to day, you're gonna be able to discuss things, and if I can ongoing-
ongoing improvement.
So like the guys that work for me, I'm constantly talking to them if they make mistakes, I'm saying, hey, watch for this next time, do this. And so I guess maybe it's just different styles is kind of what it comes down to. I'm kind of with these guys a little bit in the fact that if we're doing an annual review, I think that's good enough, but I think if there's a problem, it'll be taken care of, like you said.
Sooner than 90
90
days. Sooner
Probably.
than 90 days.
But
So-
then when you want to let that person go, you have to have
Then you
something.
can start that paperwork
But-
if you're having a
Actually,
Yeah,
problem.
at that,
But you don't have to have anything to let a non-certificated staff go.
Yeah.
That's the difference is
Yeah.
it could be helpful to say best practices would be, yeah, we have this, these are the times I talk to you.
Mhm.
But if you cannot fire somebody for religion, race, marital status, sexual preference, those things are things that can't be the sole reason to release somebody. But in Idaho, we are a right to work state. That means the employee, I could have a non-certificated employee come in right now and say, I have to be done right now. And I can't hold them to, no, you need to give me 2 weeks. I don't,
True, yeah, with nonce.
but I could also go to an employee that's non-certificated and say, we need to let you go. This is your last day, or, you need to leave right now.
Gee,
And that's
And it
what,
has happened.
minutes notice.
but that's what Idaho's law allows.
Wow.
So the state law doesn't require a 2-week notice then? It doesn't then, huh?
No, that's a courtesy for Idaho law. But when you look at this line right here, new employees shall also receive a 90-day review of their performance. What if we know we need to make a change before that 90-day review? Is this going to now come in and say, even though we
You
just
didn't
think
give me my 90
like
days.
our policy, if we have a policy that's stricter than state law, we have to follow our
Didn't they
policy.
write this though?
These are these are, again, a template suggested.
But from them,
So very few language is actually mandated in these policies. And so if we took it out and April came back and said, no, you have to have that in there, then we would make it happen. But at this point in time, we have not been informed that this is required language.
And if it's required language, then I guess
We'll do it.
Can you call April to verify that
I
then?
could
Yeah.
ask April, yeah.
we'll verify with that. But that's where, this is where I could see an employee, and again, I could be completely wrong. We'll double check with April on that.
okay,
That if we go in to make a employment change, now the employee who should be fired can come in here and hold us and say, I got fired without having my 90-day review. Even though state law doesn't say you need a 90-day review, but
Our
that
policy
policy,
does.
your West Jefferson policy. But I agree 100% that the non-certificated employee members should be evaluated.
and that's on paper,
Yep,
okay,
and those are formal. They have those every
And
single
they go
year.
into their file.
well, I thought that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just, if it's in there, you gotta check to see if we,
Yep, I've made a note of that. to
Let's
ask
double
April.
check, and if April says, no, you have to have that, then we'll make sure
Yeah.
that we'll make sure it's doing. That's
Make
the
sure
thing is,
make
if
sure
it's
we're-
in here,
we're
I want to make
compliant.
sure that we're doing it as a district.
that's what I, yeah.
But I can
that's the way I
see
feel.
from just the paperwork part of that, it does seem like just one more thing, but as things pile up, it really is more than
Wow.
just one more thing. Because you think about it with, when I pull up my next thing, I'm gonna go,
There are some things you put first, and a good supervisor could do that. It's not gonna be an imposition for a good supervisor to do that if we have to do it. If we don't have to do it and you don't want to, then,
The problem is the timing.
well,
of
it's,
making sure.
it's just what you have to do when you're in a supervisory position, and you just do it. You just do it.
yeah, and in a perfect world where we have employees lining up to want to work here in the district, right now, some of them are under like 3 out of the 4 supervisor groups that we have, we are understaffed. And so it just.
I don't want to argue that. I agree with you. But I just know that supervisors are a step ahead. a step front.
Absolutely, but the number of steps ahead that they have to be is a lot.
And maybe it'll be a moot point, and we'll come back in
Could be.
April, will say, nope, do it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sure she won't. It's probably not something that absolutely. I can't imagine what it is.
On that one there.
Okay,
Is that something that would benefit the supervisors in any way? By having that?
I don't think so.
Or do you think
I
they'll
don't think
just
it's
view it
set up,
as-
I don't think
as-
it's set up to benefit the supervisors. I think it's set up to benefit the employee.
Well, yeah.
I think
They
when they-
get an evaluation of how they're doing. Don't you all want to know how you're doing?
I think it could be a CYA thing though. If you're gonna fire someone for incompetence, then you have an evaluation to prove it. I gave
Yeah.
you these goals, you didn't meet them,
I know.
there's the door.
But nothing prevents a supervisor from saying, I'm having a problem with this employee. I am going to do a
Yeah.
formal evaluation right now.
But does he have one to even do?
Yes, we
Yeah.
have the form.
Okay.
We could actually put that in language right there that it's required to have a yearly evaluation. And we could probably put that into the procedure. At any time, a supervisor
They
may
Conduct the
start,
formal
maybe
evaluation.
start a formal,
start, and I think that would be a great balance with what we're trying.
yeah, that would be good wording to add.
All right.
And let's chalk that up for another great discussion. It's not just Shane
And a
telling the board what to do.
And a solution.
And a solution.
So that's a good.
Yeah,
I think so
and a
too.
solution, that's good wording.
And that's sometimes if you talk things through, you can come to a good solution that
Yep.
makes everybody feel good.
I like that.
Okay.
Great suggestion. I like that. I think that's gonna be a win-win.
Okay.
Bus drivers, any thoughts on the drug testing or alcohol testing for bus drivers? Those will be in there.
This is just an evaluation.
Yep.
It's not a drug test.
Well, this, yeah,
Right, so we have the
58,
evaluation
25.
non-certified. evaluation of school bus drivers, and then the drug and alcohol testing for drivers.
Are they subject to random?
Yes,
Yeah,
those
that's
are
what I
random.
Figured where they have a CDL, but.
Yeah, so it's random, and then when we report, then when we send in our iBus report, it's reviewed by the state, the people that were tested, and
Does each bus driver have to be tested at least once per school year?
if they are a route driver, yes.
Okay,
It says, yeah,
And you can see that in our financials, in our accounts payable. When we do a DOT testing, it
DOT
says the
testing.
driver's name on our
mhm.
payables, so you can see who's.
this
being
refers
tested.
to federal regulation, code of federal regulations. Our testing.
Pre-employment tests.
That's
For drivers.
5830 though.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
that's simply for drivers.
I'm sure they're subject to all the same.
Right.
Post-accident.
Any
like
CDL
DOT,
stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Random tests.
And it says, before the first time a driver performs any safety sensitive function for the district, tests shall be conducted.
Yeah.
And Mike is
Does
really
that.
on top of those things.
Okay, so
Yeah,
those
he
new
makes
people
sure
we
that
hired
those
as
happen.
subs, they're all gonna be,
Yeah, before,
Uh,
before,
for Sub bus drivers, yes.
before they get behind the wheel, all of
Right,
these things
okay.
take place.
all right.
So we provide the CDL training for them, and that's part of the training process.
Okay, only after they've been hired or offered the position.
All right. Almost there. Two more to look at. This one, school lunch employees line of authority.
What is that?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm
I
not
haven't
sure what
looked at
that is.
one.
5840. Let's look.
Lines of authority.
School lunch employees are responsible to their supervisor.
Good thing that was in policy.
Any school employee with a concern or grievance should be first addressed to him or her. Supervisor may request a building principal's assistance. I don't think we need this.
No,
No,
oh my gosh.
Somebody had problem with their school lunch employees.
Yeah.
School lunch ladies going rogue.
Maybe they were following Chris Hartley.
Is this, so this last one here, legal counsel for the board.
Oh, that's an important one.
The board at its discretion may employ legal counsel when deemed necessary and pay for such counsel from district funds. Is that a given or is that something?
We're already doing
yeah,
that.
we're doing that. I don't know why. Can I add that?
You're allowed to contact the lawyer at any time you want.
For the board, and for the board member. Is that,
Is there any
Is there
reason why
anywhere-
that needs to be in policy?
I just thought it was a given. I didn't know it was a policy, but it's not state law. So that means that
I think we're okay on that one.
this one's yours though, guys. This protects you as
We
a
better
board.
keep it.
And our liability insurance includes those kinds of things.
Mhm.
So if there was
Yeah,
something brought against you, part of our liability insurance would cover legal counsel for you.
Mhm.
I think we just keep that as a,
Liability
given.
insurance, yeah.
Yeah,
it's just a given that that's what you guys have, so.
We did it.
Well, congratulations, everybody. That was the
Woo-hoo.
first part of an extensive, so what Mrs. Dugan, I'll do is we'll go back and then we'll slim this down, just the ones that we said put in. We'll go in and simplify, add the different languages. Great discussion.
yeah.
That
it
was really, good. I know we got in the weeds with a couple of the examples that we put out there. Sorry if that painted a picture that was not the most pleasing with me being a manicure guy.
We understood it though.
Drove it home, didn't it?
Gary, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We're on the 5,000s here. How high do the numbers go?
8,000.
Go to 8, okay. So
So we
3 to
are,
go.
Yep.
hopefully by the end of this school year, we will be through.
That's optimistic.
We have 9 months.
Oh, but then a school year.
End of the school
I
year,
went
not,
calendar year.
not by the end of the calendar, end of the school year.
That was a big one to whack off, though.
Yeah, this one. I think this
Not
is one
all
the
of
biggest
them
ones.
are this
Extensive.
extensive. The student one was extensive and this one will be extensive.
Yeah, and thank you, Mrs. DeGraff, for helping get that organized with
That's a good job.
ISBA. Reaching out as board clerk. Madam
And then you
Chair.
will print them off again. for the
Yes, I
second
will make
reading.
sure that, so next board meeting, we'll have a first reading
Mhm,
as a discussion item.
Right.
I'll have a hard copy for you guys to look at.
mhm.
And then we can take that home and
And
look
then you
at it.
can take it
that's our
home and
second
adjust
reading.
it before our second reading.
Okay.
And then you can kind of inform us how April.
Yep,
on
Yeah.
that
yeah,
one.
I will do my research on some of these
Yeah.
things that I've made note of
Great.
and then. Mrs. Perkins, if you would like to give me your copy. And then I can follow your notes and make sure that those things are met.
Thank you, Mrs. DeGraff.
That's a big job.
All right, for discussion. Been brought to my attention, a new thing was brought up. It seems like every year that harvest comes up, there are concerns about the start time when we have our schedule. Our scheduled harvest is set. That's on here for discussion. We'll go to and wonder, I probably should just.
If if we leave it the way it is, then those kids got sports right after school, and that's a couple hours, and then it just kind of, by the time they get to work, they got a couple hours, and it's not. So they talked or asked if there was a possibility, if we're not going to change it, can we move the sports practices to a different time of the day, whether that's at the beginning of the day or end of the day, just so it was more convenient for them, basically, so they could have those kids a longer time period, or staff member, whoever's.
So they want a whole week. And is that going to be necessary? Is the harvest going to be ready? That's in June.
A lot of guys will start killing their potatoes, and so they'll be ready by the 20th, 21st. They can
So we
kill at any time.
So as I remember, we had input from them when we did the calendar, didn't we? And isn't this what we decided?
Yeah, and I think every year is just a little bit different as far as heat, and land's a little bit different.
So do we need to learn to be a little more flexible every year with our harvest, or do we need to set it and then keep it? I mean, I can see lots of cons in changing schedules this late date.
It's a moving target all the time.
It is.
Unless you said our spud harvest is gonna hit this time, and it's gonna be on a sliding scale, but that's difficult for anyone really to plan anything, whether it's,
Mhm.
Very difficult.
I mean, it caters to the spud farmers really well, but
I also remember the room full of people that we got when we tried to change it once, and they said that if we don't have
a successful harvest, we don't have a school district. We don't have the things we need. I remember hearing that. I sympathize.
Yeah, and you know, a couple years ago, we had, when that snowstorm moved through, that was, some guys that ruined a lot of their crop. You know, they pumped thousands of dollars an acre into it, just where, I mean, and I guess I'm speaking from a farmer's perspective, but I mean, that's, in the case of a potato field, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that you can lose. So I guess I understand the problem of moving the schedule, because we set it in stone. And so you got people that have things scheduled then, just like Annie just said. But at the same time, like I said, I sympathize with them a little bit. So it's a hard line for me. And so I discussed or talked to Shane about moving football practice to AM, you know, and there's already a lot of pressures on our coaches to be successful in different things. And now we want this one more thing. So I don't know.
Mhm.
It's hard. 7 o'clock in the morning.
No, it'd be,
6.
it'd be
Six.
5:30.
Wow, and it's gonna be cold and wet in the morning.
Okay, with our attendance policy, Mr. Williams, are there options if farmers needed these students while we were still in session?
So we have always allowed a work release, but it's the sports issue. That's the
what
next thing.
sports. I should
Without
clarify
school being on, couldn't they go like at 6 o'clock in the morning and have practice and then
that.
get
Well, it
back
seems
to
like
work?
during spud harvest, they usually do.
Oh, do they?
Traditionally, it's been that way. When I was here, we went early morning.
Huh.
Um,
Didn't seem like they
So,
did
but
that.
yeah, the work release is great, like, unless that kid's gonna leave for
For sports.
3 hours during the middle of the day.
But
Which-
again, that's where it gets difficult to say. And everything I'm saying right now is not me trying to be resistant to an open and not recognizing that this is the most important time for that farmer. But let's unpeel this package. Harvest break traditionally has been for potato farmers. As you look around the valley, there are other types of agriculture that go on that also, that's going to be some of the things I've heard in PAW meetings and other things will say that non-potato farmers will say, well, is harvest just for the potato farmers? Or what about those that are cutting silage, or what those that are doing third crop? Or like people will say, we'll work our kids here. Why is it potato harvest? One reason why we start so early in the school year is because we've allowed for the 2-week I said potato harvest, but harvest at that time, where we've also heard from grain users saying, we would love to start after Labor Day, because in that way we can use a crew. And so there's a hit and a miss on the different crews and the different systems. And, you know, we've even looked at saying, is a 2-week harvest worth it? Should we have a 1-week harvest and come back another week? On one hand, that would give the grain farmers more help for 1 more week, but it's just, who do we listen
Not
to?
gonna satisfy anybody.
For grain, you know, it's busy, but you can kind of manage with less people. But where like hay and potatoes, it's full court press and you need 100 guys standing right there. So, you know, like this year, I think for a hay farmer, our spud harvest is or our harvest break
But it started.
is gonna be pretty timely, with the exception of a few.
Carrie, can you share the screen?
And so
Wow.
I don't know that we'll be able to make it work for everyone. I don't know that moving it's gonna be the answer.
So here,
Maybe a work release and a sports schedule is,
So we were
it's
discussing. with-
almost like every single thing, because if you took each individual farmer and their crew and looked at everything they do. Now, we're not talking just about football.
Yeah,
We're also talking volleyball. We're talking cross country
true.
because they do let ladies drive trucks, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Not
not just,
me.
it's not just,
The better drivers.
but it becomes an issue. And could we, you know, one thought that I had is, could we compromise and take the 7th and 8th and pop it up here to the 23rd and 24th?
That's what I was thinking.
That's something that could happen. It would be a compromise. We did that last year, but we will have situations, anytime we move it, we will have some employees who looked at this calendar back in November or back in February and said, I am going to take my family on a vacation because I'm not required to work. So is it the obligation of now that teacher to possibly feel guilty? Now that teacher has to take personal days that they weren't intending to take on that. We have to find it substitute teachers for them, or they have to cancel their trips at that time. And then somebody with a counter argument will say, well, isn't potato harvest it's not for the staff, it's for the farmers. Let's take that. Which farmers are we talking about?
Got all walks of
We have
life. It's not just.
we have all walks of life on that. And maybe
But ours less people to do some crops than others. And that's why we're going with the potato harvest, because it takes so many people,
Right.
so
and
many
by
more
this-
people than the
By
other.
this point, late in September, majority of the grain is gone and
Yeah.
harvested.
We-
And so it's just those.
Potato.
let's take a
Potatoes and
let's take a
that.
hypothetical. If we took October 4th and 8th and we put that all the way on the 20th and 24th and we just bumped it up, I think we create so many more problems. The two farmers that contacted you would be like, sweet, I've got my 5 or 6 workers.
Mhm.
This is gonna cause a problem here because if it rains on any of those days, everybody wants an extension. That's where there's not, like, we thought we had a solution 2 years ago by saying, let's have 1 week that's set in stone and then have the work release for both sides of that for people. Because then that crew, if it rains that day, guess what? Those kids come to school. But it's so.
Wow,
They didn't
that's
like
tough.
that.
That's tough.
They didn't
That's
like that. They
tough.
wanted to have the 2 weeks, but it's not just the 2 weeks. They want the 2 weeks and to have the sports schedule. And I don't know, maybe that's the hard part about it is I wish we could fix it so everybody got exactly what they wanted. But I don't think it's realistic. I don't think we realistically can go in and say, but I'm open to doing whatever we want, whatever the board, if we feel like we have to add 3 more days, we would have to find 3 more days somewhere in the calendar.
You can't extend a 2-week vacation.
I don't know.
That's way too
Other
much for a
districts have done that.
cafe.
Yeah.
Sugar has done that. I don't recommend it, but
That's
it
a
could be
long time to
done.
be out of school. That's 14, 17 days.
It's almost an entire, it's getting closer to a month.
Maybe
I
we
think.
need a harvest month.
Can I
The harvest month.
can I make something clear?
Start school
We're
at
not
first of
talking about
August. Yeah.
reducing the harvest length.
No,
We
no.
are
No,
leaving
you're
our 2-week harvest
Talking
in
about
place.
adding days.
I don't want anyone to get the impression that we're talking about. I want that to be clear that it's 2 weeks. We're just trying to determine if
Right.
we have the 2 weeks in the right place.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, because as I'm looking at the calendar, the only reason why it would go to 1 would be to start a week later.
And that's a future discussion.
That's
not for this year.
even anything that I have on my radar for the next 3 years. I'm just saying, that was just part of the discussion before is we start on the 23rd, we could have started on the 30th. If we only had one, that's the thing, if you had that week, so a week has to come somewhere. It either has to come at the beginning of the year or we go into
Or the
June.
end.
Like that's,
Exactly.
it has to come somewhere, either at the beginning or at the end.
I've only been contacted by one farmer and they said our spud harvest right now aligns perfectly with their kill dates and they want to leave it alone. So my concern is how many other farmers have planned for that now?
Mhm.
And that is what they're planning, but as far as the sports and things, you start messing with this. I don't know, I guess I would like to know how many kids this truly affects. Like by name, you tell me by name the kids that you are employing. If we're talking about 5, it's not worth rocking the boat for the entire community.
How many students did we have work harvest last year? I know Cheryl Bird tracked me.
We had a survey.
Yeah.
Those
Cheryl Bird
surveys
tracked
are
me.
not legit unless you
yeah.
are contacting the
I think Cheryl
employers.
Bird talked to the students themselves.
Last
That doesn't
year,
do it for me,
last year with
because
COVID, there
you're
was
gonna lie.
more because they had restrictions on bringing workers in. So I think last year
They couldn't
was
use the
was
inmates.
legitimately higher, but this was, that wasn't the issue. The issue, those students worked during the 2 weeks that we had identified off. This issue here is, do we change it to accommodate those that need the extra helpers at that time? We've already accommodated by allowing the students to go there, but those students have chosen to also play an extracurricular optional activity. That's the part. And I grew up playing extracurricular activities. If it is going to be a legitimate hardship on your family, what should you choose? You should choose your family over playing football. You should choose your family over playing that. And if that's the case, then I guess those students have to say, all right, I know I signed up to play football, but for my livelihood or for my family's livelihood, I might be ineligible. And that puts them in a hard spot, but that's them choosing something hard. It's like right now, it's like we're trying to get everything in line so I can still work, I can still get credit at a school, I can still play football, and I can still go there on Fridays and do that. Because everything that we do, it's a choice and a consequence. This calendar that we have, it's a choice and it has consequences, both positive and negative for some people.
Traditionally has, and I don't really remember, but has our harvest break been 2 weeks in September, or is it week September?
It's
week
usually the
October?
last full week of September and the
Mhm.
first full week of October.
Yeah, that's typical.
And sometimes you get the calendars where there are certain spots that I've heard that they try to start around the 22nd, 23rd. And could this calendar, like going back in time, could we have started it on the 23rd and ended it there? Yes, we could have done that. But if we would have done that, we still would have had poor attendance on the 7th and 8th. It's
Mhm.
like you pick your poison,
Yeah.
which spot,
I like this a little better. It's just cleaner.
and that's,
Yeah, the full week is cleaner.
that's what the conversation led. Last year, we did have the half. I heard mixed results. Some people liked it. Some were worried about the 2 days coming back. You know, as we look at next year's calendar in 22, the Friday is gonna be the 23rd. So the 23rd will actually bump over to there. So I'm thinking it's pretty close. And I can't predict the weather because we've also had times, I think my first year, they wanted to extend it or they wanted to take the first week of harvest and bump it back. And I'm just, but there's pressure. I'm not blaming.
Is it the
People
problem
for
that you
asking.
don't know until the year comes?
Yeah,
You don't know
yeah,
until.
because
you
it's
see
weather.
Different.
it's
the
weather.
weather that
driven.
affects it. Okay.
I remember a few years ago where it just rained the entire harvest break that Madison had. And so they
Such a
did
waste.
extend their harvest break, but
But it's
There's those
impossible to call it
But did
back.
they?
I don't think they extended it
they did once,
once,
one
but-
time.
but then they went back to it and said, we're just gonna allow work release for those kids that need it.
The majority of the time, that's what they do, but we can't determine what's gonna happen. I think this is a gift that we give our community.
Mhm. And we do the best that we can.
But the hard part is we also don't, I can see exactly where Tyson and, for those farmers, this is a serious thing. They really want the help. They need the help on that one. But for us to fix it for them, it's just not as
Well-
easy as saying we're changing it here because there are other things that come in. And it's not just because the teachers are taking their fancy vacations, during that time. That's not what it is. But if the teachers have paid for their vacations, that's another thing. Now we have to replace those teachers here. It creates a big deal and it creates an issue.
Don't see how we can change it.
I think we got to remember we're in the education business. We have to do what's best for our school district.
Well,
True, but we have a community.
We live in a farming community.
Yeah, but we do the best we can.
and I think because you could take that same statement, Willie, and I'm not gonna, it's a work meeting, we're not voting today, but you could still come out and say, we're in the education business.
Mhm.
Don't say it. Don't even
I'm gonna
say
say it. Why do we have a harvest break then?
Well.
You know, that's the
because
catch. That's the
this-
catch 22.
it.
That's the catch 22.
That was a hypothetical, right?
For the record, I'm not saying that we should reduce it, but it's hard for me to logically follow that step of saying, if we're in the education business, having the harvest break should be, especially a 2-week harvest break. Our patrons have talked, we want a 2-week harvest break,
And we give it to them.
and we give it to them. And I have no intention of changing that.
Yeah,
And so,
but on our side is we can't determine the weather.
and so we're generally going to, as a rule of thumb, have it be the last full week of September, the first week of October. And that's where we will continue to keep that. Are we already offering enough to have a 2-week harvest
Harvest
break?
break.
Are we extending ourselves even more on trying to change it last? You see what I'm saying? Like, I think we are offering something like, I don't think our patrons can say, you guys aren't listening to us. You're not considering it. I'm sympathetic for them, but I don't know what else we can do. But if the board feels like we need to do it, I as superintendent, I'll jump in there. I'll communicate out to teachers. We'll find out which subs need to be taking place. But it will create more. But again, we have some farmers that have contacted Tyson and said, we need to get changed. We've had others that have contacted Tennis and said, my kill dates are set for that day. If you go earlier, that messes us up on the back end.
Mhm.
And just remembering last year, I had a few call me and said, we plan our kill dates according to your calendar, and that's, if you go changing it, that throws us off.
Yeah.
So you may have a lot of people out there that are planning on those 2 weeks.
And probably most are, because it seemed like every spud farmer was right here. So not everyone, but
Well, and I think having this as a discussion, at least we're doing our due diligence. We're listening.
Yes.
part
Some
of-
school
part of this is
districts
determined on
don't
size.
have a harvest.
That's
I
right.
don't think Ryrie has a harvest, do they?
I don't know.
No,
I don't think Ryrie does.
your Fremont and Sugar.
Mhm.
Teton doesn't no longer. They used to when I was in school, but Teton no longer has
Yeah,
it.
I don't think Ryrie does.
Madison just does a week now.
Madison has a week. They're the only 5A school that does that. Ryrie does not.
Mhm.
Firth does. Shelley does, and we do. I think Snake
Rigby
River.
quit a long time ago.
Yeah, Rigby's hasn't done it for years.
Do they start later in August then?
Yeah, a lot of them
They
will
just
start.
started.
Okay,
30th.
so is the football practice a problem then on these days we're off? Are they gonna change it to the morning?
Well,
that-
I suspect they will.
So like 7
don't know.
o'clock?
Well, and I don't know, I don't want to speak on that, because that's the other thing, is I've seen it done both ways. I've seen it done in the morning, I've seen it done late at night. And part of that goes back to when I remember when I practiced, our team usually does worse when we have a 6 o'clock practice.
Why does it have to be 6 o'clock?
Part of the philosophy behind a 6 o'clock one would be that if it comes at 6 o'clock, the kids could be done, and the spuds are usually starting to be dug out of the field by 8 or 9 o'clock. Because they want to hit that window.
Worms are not- It's gotta be a certain
It
temperature.
has to be a certain temperature to dig.
And they start digging usually at about 9.
Well,
Depends
depends. Sometimes
Depends on how quickly
Can-
it warms up.
if
Gotta be
if it's
above
too
35
hot,
degrees.
if it's too hot, they want to dig earlier
Uh-huh.
and sometimes have to shut down in the afternoon.
Mhm.
If it's too cold, they have to wait till it warms up before they
Nightmare.
dig. And if it's generally a cold year, then they want to work late as they can just to get as much into the cellars as possible. So it is,
Mm,
it's one of those
Nightmare.
things.
Yeah.
So you look at it from our football coach's perspective, if kids are practicing around the same time that they play, they generally will have a better chance to perform better in the game. If they're practicing in the morning, the practice might not be as productive, and that kind of
And it's cold and wet in the morning.
hits, yeah.
It's uncomfortable.
It's not as productive of practice. And so you look at also the demands of our football coach, where we have everybody's a coach, everybody's a critic, has their opinion, and then they start putting all these things. You have to win, you have to run the right offense, you have to be a cheerleader for my kid, you have to do all these things to make sure that we have the perfect little football opportunity for him. Oh, by the way, let's have practice at this time to accommodate my kid at this time. And if you don't win and play my kid, I'm still mad at you. It's one of those things that it's complicated. Like, let's, like, somebody else jump in who wants to try to do that. And if that's the case, if we have to, then let's at least celebrate what we're doing. Let's say, thank you, coach, for giving our kids a chance to wear uniforms and go run around and tackle kids. Instead of, you're not doing practice at the right time, you're not doing this, now let's do it this way. It's one of the things I've seen our coaches, even this last, during the practice season for the fair, there was some frustration from the coaching staff because you heard kids saying, well, I've got to work, I've got to do this. Our coaches were holding 2 practices a day where they said, well, let's accommodate. I'll have an AM practice. Those of you that can make it to AM practice, come there. Coaching staff, you'll come out at 5:30 in the morning to set up for morning practice. And then we're going to come back out and we're going to have an evening practice just to accommodate the kids. Our coaches are doing that. Our football staff has done that. And so it's one of those things where like, where's our priorities? One of the things that I don't know if we can make everybody happy. And I think it's unrealistic to say, going to say sports.
Well, they do have to miss foot practice.
The quarter.
That's the coaching staff. Because a board, I knew where the process is. Are you back? Can you hear?
Not yet.
We have.
It is being live streamed.
All right, back on.
Here's Mrs. DeGraw.
I need to double check.
They were working on our internet and our camera systems in the district, and that's why our
Hmm.
internet, but I have this camera. I know that's,
Okay, thank you. We're having some technical troubles, but we did pause our discussion again. I don't know.
see, again, that's because we're not in a work meeting, or excuse me, we're not in a regular meeting. We don't have to make a decision. I just,
We're not allowed to make a decision.
yeah.
Right.
But that's the hard part is I don't want patrons to be thinking, oh, you guys don't appreciate us. We support your schools and we have to ask for bonds. We have to ask for levies. Like that's how we do it. But I don't think we can get into the business of I'm only doing this so you can vote for my bond. Like that's also not the way we want to work.
I also don't want to start dictating to coaches when and how they should do their practices.
I think it should be left up to them.
You know, I guess that's where the parents could reach out, but here's the,
I think the athletes have to work with their coaches.
I can't pull up the,
Oh, do I need to rely on you to share it?
no, my computer, my internet's not working.
What would you like me to pull up the calendar?
Just the agenda,
Okay, I can do that.
just pull up the agenda and we can stay on. So what it comes down to is I've heard it where they ask, can we have a morning practice? And you might have a handful of kids that can't make it because of work, but we also have some other kids that can't make it. So it's like picking out and when we make a decision and it doesn't go in the favor of somebody, I think it's natural to go, oh, you didn't listen to me, you don't like me. You didn't listen to me, you didn't respect my request.
Right.
I just think if you guys as board members, this is how it would have to work if there is a change that wants to be done. Right now, we keep the status quo, but if there's somebody that wants to have a special meeting to have it changed, it would have to have a special vote and do it. As of right now, that was the procedure to going forward for if it take place. So I don't know, that's all I have on passion sometimes, but I do feel like we're trying their best. It's not a perfect situation. I've seen our coaching staff and they'll make things happen. So that's all.
Okay. We'll move on to 3.3 then.
So we've had a long enough meeting. I just wanted to have any of the follow-up discussions. These are the things that with our back to school plan, we're in place. I thought it was interesting, our back to school plan, the biggest things that clarify is home. We still want those people. Pull up Eastern Idaho Public Health numbers. We're seeing here. Last year on this date, or yesterday's date, there were 15 cases per 10,000. This year there was 17 cases per 10,000. So that tells me that we might be in the same type of cycles it was last year, which gives me a lot of optimistic hope going forward that we're moving in the right direction. We're doing the right things. So as we talk about COVID and
I know, I just thought.
you just getting out there hand sanitizers. out there.
Our secretaries though are asking if a student has a family member that's tested positive, they are asking for a copy of the test.
Yeah.
Of the report.
Just as
a confirmation that, yep, we will excuse these dates and we'll make sure that those students are getting their classwork so that they can keep up. Super.
the other two plans, we're going to keep working on those. I don't think we address them more. Just wanted to bring them up if we wanted to. And then The last one, Ed Foundation. We have a meeting that we wanted to set up
We're
It's
setting
what,
up
first part of
on-
September.
It's the 1st of September.
September 1st at
And I've already
3:45.
contacted the
Yeah.
Hamer guys,
Okay.
so.
So 3:45. Perfect. That's
So
all I
you
have. Unless
contact
there's anything
Wanda.
else.
Yeah, I'll contact Wanda and make sure she comes.
All right, our next meeting,
Next meeting that we have is the board meeting on the 16th of September, with the exception of the Ed Foundation meeting on September 1st. Unless there's another meeting that's called by the board before that.
And it's at, what time again? The,
3:45.
no, okay, the, next board meeting?
It's out, the
12:45.
executive
12.
session will be at 12:45.
12:45.
all right. Well, there's no further business. Before we open for motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn this long meeting.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.